All right, the Krueger Show after Monday Night Football. Oh, there was no Monday Night Football. No Monday Night Football? I mean, that is just...
You didn't watch the FCS championship game, Larry?
No, Illinois State. I should have supported Illinois State.
Go Birds.
We got a lot to get to. It's Eagle Week. Fly, fly, fly. They're fans. All right, off and running Monday night. Welcome to 2026 for the first time. Dieter is here with us in 2026, Monday, January the 5th. We're brought to you by Pig and a Pickle. The best barbecue in all of Northern California is Pig and a Pickle. Check them out, Embryville, Corte Madera. They're coming in 2026 to Petaluma. That's right, a third location. That's right. Check out. By the way, Dieter's got on the bottom of his screen, Dieter and Hutch Pod. There you go.
That's right. And it's for ball knowers only.
That's right. And you're up there. We're co-streaming tonight. I see you up there. Yeah. So we're co-streaming at both channels. So give Dieter, if you have not followed Jake and Dieter, do it. Dieter and Hutch Pod. It's a phenomenal. These guys are both really knowledgeable. They're both really on top of it. And they're independent thinkers, so they're going to give you something that you haven't gotten somewhere else. So that's probably the best thing I could say.
I love that. We'll take it. We'll take it. Independent thinkers. That is also a code word sometimes for assholes, but we'll take it.
Or these guys are so wrong that it'll be unique. I mean, you won't hear this opinion anywhere else. That's for damn sure.
No one would debase themselves with that opinion quite like us, but you can find out the hard way by listening or watching our show, because this is 2026 and podcasts are video and radio is television and nothing means anything anymore.
Well, Kev, of course, my fantastic son who produces the show, is all grown up now. But when he was a little guy, sometimes you'd have to give him those, hey, we need you to do this. And then sometimes his mom or I would say, can we do this the easy way, or do we have to do this the hard way? And at some point he's outsmarted us, Dieter. And he's like, I'm like, are we going to? And he's like, let's do this the hard way. We're doing it the hard way. It's like,
sounds like my kids.
So Kev, there you go. He was doing it the hard way. All right, the Niners did it the hard way Saturday night. We haven't talked. We talked before the game over some really good tacos, but we didn't talk in the post game. Not because we're warring, just because we were busy. So this is the first time we've talked since the game. Give me your rundown, man. What did you see Saturday night? Give me your evaluation of what we saw.
In the immediate aftermath, I think that sometimes you watch a game and what you thought you saw doesn't actually line up with what shows up on the film.
Right.
Maybe that was the case in the sense of it was actually way easier for Seattle than I thought it was in the moment. And it looked easy for Seattle on Saturday, man. Watching back, the Niners defense was abysmal. It was abysmal. And that was with a decent defensive line game for them, which is something they have not had very frequently, if at all, this season. Their linebackers were just taken out to pasture. They get injured in the game. I don't think that has anything to do with how they were just getting tossed around. D. Winters was abysmal. Tatum Bethune was easy pickings. This Garrett Wallow guy had us all wallowing over why he was on the field. Eric Kendricks was not very good. I think you and I both took a couple snaps at Sam. That didn't go great. So it was really bad. And, JSN was just open on the over route again and again and again and again. Sam Darnold didn't have to think, didn't have to really do anything. They're giving up easy runs because they're dominating at the line of scrimmage, particularly in the middle where a guy like Jordan Elliott's just going for the ride most plays. That was I thought that Clint Kubiak called a good game in the moment because it did feel like he was always one step ahead of Robert Saleh in terms of what Robert Saleh was calling, and he had kind of the perfect thing dialed up at the perfect time very frequently on Saturday. And then watching it back and just trying to pad out the game, it's like, oh, there was nothing being called. They just dropped into cover 3 again and again and again, which, to, maybe knock myself a little bit, I did suggest they play almost nothing but cover 3. I was wrong. Robert Saleh was wrong. And basically, King Kubiak didn't have to bust out anything cool, anything interesting at all. He was able to run simple concepts in the pass game. They worked for 15 to 20 yards a pop, and they were able to run the ball with impunity in a way that they frankly have not done all season. So the defense was not even close to competitive in this game, despite the 13-point score line. This is somehow the second best goal to go defense in football. Everything else about them is terrible, but they're somehow the second best goal to go. Say that 10 times fast. Defense in football. The only one better, by the way, is the Eagles. And that saved their ass. I thought that Upton Stout had a nice game. And then offensively, how many times have we come on here? How many times have we had the 49ers offense is predicated on mismatches. And what Kyle Shanahan wants to do is put you in the wrong sub package for the play that they're running. And the way that you do that is you have versatile players. So, hey, you're going to go into base to stop Christian McCaffrey in the run game. Guess what? We're going to throw it now with Christian McCaffrey on a Sam or a weak side linebacker one-on-one, and we're going to throw it to him. Or we're going to throw it to George Kittle in the same look. Oh, you want to go light? Well, now we're going to run it because we have a fullback that can be a lead blocker, and we have a great blocking tight end. In Seattle, basically, and this is not a one-game circumstance, they had been building to this game since week 1. They've been building for this game, whether they knew it was coming or not, since the second Mike McDonald got hired. They said, we're not doing sub packages. Go ahead, do whatever you want, because we have more versatile players than you with Devin Witherspoon and Nick Emani. So go ahead, try. We're going to double team Kittle. We're going to have a lot of bodies around Kittle. We're going to double team McCaffrey. And what we're going to do is we're basically going to say, beat us on the outside. We got one of the best safeties in football. We got one of the best corners in football. Our other guy, Tariq Woolen, who was horrible in week 1, was very good in this game. And we're going to dare you to beat us with those guys. And I think their game plan was pretty simple, which was we're going to make Ricky Pearsall beat us, except Ricky Pearsall didn't play. So that's what happened there. This is the optimism, or maybe the optimistic side of me, which doesn't come out very often, would like to present this fact. There's only one defense in football that can do that. There's only one defense in football that can line up in the same package every single play and present a million different possibilities on what they can do. There's only one defense in football that can get Kyle Shanahan, who was unquestionably on a heater coming into this in terms of play calling and tactics and all this stuff. He was cooking. I don't care who the competition was. He was cooking. There's only one defense that can make him second guess everything because they don't adjust. His game is making you adjust and then weaponizing that adjustment. They're like, come at us, do whatever you want. And we're gonna make this game very simple on both sides. We have better players than you do, and they certainly did on Saturday.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of different ways you could look at this game. I first of all, 49ers offensively are just slow. They don't have anything. They have no speed.
Yeah,
and they're
same issue as last year.
But I mean, this Seattle team's fast.
Yes.
So, this kind of reminded me of when I watched the New York Giants go against the Baltimore Ravens when Jim Fossil was going against that great Ravens team. And NFL Films captured Fossil like midway through the first quarter, just going, play faster. They're too fast for us. And then all of a sudden you've got Billick on the other side, and he's saying the same thing. We're too fast for them. Yeah. And occasionally there's like an obvious situation like that. That's why the NFL scouts and the personnel people put so much credence into speed, because speed matters. And the 49ers
sound, right? And that was the other difference. I mean, Seattle just made every open field tackle.
Yeah.
Did they miss one? It was unbelievable. They were there, and then they
missed 3 tackles. The Niners missed 18.
I didn't see them.
Yeah,
I don't know what the hell when those happened, but they were not in my eyeballs. Maybe I was looking down or something, but I mean,
it's also like, it's like if you're trying to save money every month and you put the maximum away, and your company's matching for your 401k, right, and then you even go beyond the max and you're still paying all your bills, you would say that's a really smart game plan. That's kind of the Mike McDonald game plan. He leaves 2 safeties deep and just basically says, you're not going to go over the top. You're going to operate underneath. And then he just says, we're faster than you underneath, so you're not going to be able to get away from us. And then they've got right now 3 guys that are really playing well. Their edge guys are just kind of but Byron Murphy is on one. Jerron Reed is really strong. And the third guy is the best guy probably, and that's the guy from SC. What's his name?
You talking about Dexter Lawrence?
No, for Seattle on the former New York Giant.
Yeah.
Leonard Williams.
Leonard Williams, sorry.
Yeah, so Leonard Williams and Jerron Reed and Murphy, Byron Murphy, are just monsters inside, and they just totally caved in the inside. And then eventually the tackles gave way late as well. I thought Pleasance and McKivitz did a decent job. But the Seattle interior's awesome. Their second-level defenders are really fast. I mean, between Drake Thomas, Ernest Jones, Nick Emani. So those guys, it's almost like a basketball game where they're getting to all the loose balls, all the balls on the open floor, and getting these long rebounds. It's the same thing. I mean, those guys are just so much faster than the Niner offensive players that they just shut down all the space. Every single time the 49ers completed a pass, there was a Seahawk defender that had already taken 3 steps and were about to detonate right on them. They had no run after the catch. They were totally snuffed out like a candle. Their O-line lost to the Seahawk D-line. The Seahawk linebackers are way faster than the Niner weapons, and the Seahawk secondary is way better than the Niners receivers. So they just snuffed them out, man. I mean, they just absolutely snuffed them out. That was the most – that 10-point margin is the most flawed stat of the year. I mean, that game could have been 33-3.
It felt that way. And I think it maybe speaks to the sort of charmed existence the Niners had been running and perhaps are still running. We'll find out that they had a shot to make that game interesting late. Now, of course, it all blew up with Thomas's interception off of McCaffrey's hands and such. But they had no business. They had no business being in that game and effectively putting together one drive. They had no business being able to get, 2 missed field goals and a 4th down stop and, pretty, pardon the pun, stout defensive performance, at least back against the end zone. Stout was exceptional in this game, by the way. He was the clear standout. But it's interesting you mentioned that you thought it was like a basketball game. I don't disagree with that analogy, but I'll swing it another way. It was like a basketball game in the playoffs where the Seattle defense just said, we're taking away McCaffrey. We're taking him away. Anyone else want to try to beat us? And if you don't have someone who can just win man-to-man, because they were light on the outside now. They actually did stack the box in this game quite often. And because the Niners, of course, are a condensed formation team. And so you can just get a lot of bodies in there with Witherspoon and Emani setting up as sort of it's a 44 stack linebacker situation. I mean, that's really dangerous when you have a guy like Emani who can play all 3 levels at a elite level. He's their Kyle Hamilton. And it has taken 18 weeks now for him to get to this point where he's an X factor of all X factors going into this playoff. Like, I cannot get over how good Emani was in this game. And then Witherspoon, who can play on the outside as a straight corner and then come in and give you will linebacker snaps. Like, that's not normal. And we've talked a lot over the years about Brock Purdy versus chaos defenses. And the reason I call them chaos defenses, we can maybe there's a better term for it, but we're talking the Flores's and we're talking, Mike McDonald, sort of these nebulous concepts of defense where, versatile players, everybody's mixing and matching. You don't know who's coming and who's going. We talk about that a lot because Christmas Day 2023, we saw what Mike McDonald's Baltimore Ravens did to Brock Purdy. Let's not forget now, that is the reason, that singular game, amongst his very impressive body of work, but that singular game got him the Seattle head coaching job. The Seahawks are like, okay, the 49ers are the class. We got to stop 2 Shanahan tree offenses. Who do we go get who can stop it? Who is going to keep those guys on their ass? By the way, Arizona tried the same thing with Jonathan Gannon. That didn't work out. He gets fired today. But with McDonald, he got 2 years. First year, they win 10 games, but they were building up towards something. They were putting the right pieces together. They make a trade for Ernest Jones late in the season, right? And They're trying to piece it together, figure it out. This year, it took a little bit off the front, but once Emani got in there and became their Kyle Hamilton, you already have Witherspoon. Job takes a step forward. Love takes a step forward. You knew that defensive line was going to get after it because they got after it in the second half of last year, and they continued that form into this year. It's dangerous because it keeps Kyle on his back foot. And what really has separated the 49ers offense over the last 6-7 weeks since Purdy has come back is that they have been on the front foot again. They are the ones dictating the terms of engagement. And a lot of that is the dash motion that they're running with Juice in the backfield and breaking gaps up before the play starts. The Niners were on the back foot this entire game. It didn't matter how much motion and stuff you did because, again, they weren't moving. They didn't care what you did. And Kyle's, and again, his entire offensive ethos is making you make the mistake and then them taking advantage of it. And they just don't make mistakes because they're not influenced by anything that an opposing offense does. Now, there are teams, and I will say the Rams are pretty straightforward, right? Yeah, they bring motion, but it's not to adjust linebackers and things like that. They have a quarterback who can rip it all over the field. Kind of what you see is what you get. Offenses will actually probably have a little bit better success against Seattle, but an offense that's sort of baseline predicated on being tricky or finding small margins, they're not going to get any quarter against this Seattle defense, which has improved immensely from a very high bar since week one. And again, I can't get over how good Emani was in this game. And I think it should be a really big issue for 49ers fans, something they keep in the front of their head moving forward. Like, you're going to need to get another playmaker who can do it all to match this guy, because clearly, as it stands now, Seattle has more of those than you do when we're talking about Kittle and McCaffrey.
Well, and that was a great trade by John Schneider, who basically said, you know what? This guy fell to the second round. We think he's a first-round pick. We're going to put together a deal. We're going to trade for him. Now we have 2 first-round picks. And Emani is an awesome athlete. He lit up the combine, and he has just been an incredible player. And it's amazing, though.
For what it's worth on him, by the way, I think he would have been a total failure in most systems. I think he had to be in a defense like McDonald's or like a Brian Flores's, to where he's allowed to be at the line of scrimmage, where his athleticism is the number one trait. Because if you just stick him back there as a safety, he's actually pretty woeful. So you have to use him as an every position sort of dude. You have to have him as that number 8 attacking midfielder for a soccer terminology. And that was just the perfect pick in the perfect place. Just like some guys work for the Steelers and won't work for other teams because of the way they go about their business. That was just the perfect pick at the perfect time. I didn't like him for the 49ers during the draft process, but as soon as he went to the Seahawks, I mean, there's video evidence of me and Hutch just going, fuck. Like, they're screwed now. That is a number 1 perfect.
Well, it's like he can play the nickel corner. He can play the weak side linebacker. He's probably better at that than playing either safety spot. But you know what? He's so big, so fast, and he's a great kid. He wants to learn. He wants to get better. And that's, when you have big-time talent, you have an open mind to get better and you want to work. I talked to the Seahawks announcers this week, and they're like, yeah, this kid really works, and he gets a lot better. So he got hurt in that week 1 game. Derailed him for a little bit, but then he got better and better by the end of the year. This guy's everywhere, absolutely everywhere.
Incredible.
There were 3 plays, though, as dominant as Seattle was, and they were dominant. They went for it on 4th down, didn't get it. They missed a couple field goals. They easily could have been, as I said, instead of 17-3 or 13-3, it could have been 28-3 or something. But there were 3 plays in the second half that could have gone either way. And really, all 3 went in the Seahawks' favor. One was the Yatir Gross-Matos inability to collect the fumble on the botched handoff of Sam Darnold late in the 3rd quarter. And that would have given the ball to the Niners inside the Seattle 30-yard line. Who knows what would happen there? That was one bounce that went their way.
Right.
And then, of course, the 3rd and 17 run to Kenneth Walker, where he ran for 19. That was the backbreaker of the game. The crowd after that point was not really into it. You saw Lynch up in the booth going crazy. That was a back-breaking run for sure. Like, that took the air out of the balloon. And then the one that made it official was the McCaffrey tipped ball that Drake Thomas picked off, inside the 4-yard line. Those 3 plays. I mean, think about it. Even though Seattle dominated, even though the Niners are woefully outgunned and can't stop the run, Really, there's like 10 different ways to beat them. Because that score was low, if those 3 bounces went in the Niners' favor, the Niners could have won that game despite being infinitely inferior. It just kind of goes to show that, football is a crazy thing. Sometimes you're the better team, sometimes you're not. Sometimes you get the bounces, sometimes the better team gets the bounces.
Right.
But I mean, in this case, that's what I think we saw Saturday night. They are the better team. If they played the Niners 10 times, they'd win 8 or 9.
Yeah.
But they also got the bounces. And I think the Niners aren't as good as Philly this week. We'll get into it in a bit. But they're, once again, I mean, they're better on special teams. And if they get a couple bounces in their favor, who knows? It depends. I don't think Brock Purdy, Christian McCaffrey, and Kittle and, Trent Williams, Shanahan, I don't think that they laid a major egg last week. And I do think offensively they will bounce back, even though Philly's got, since week 8, I think they're giving up like 14.6 points a game. It's number 1 in the league. It's a very good defense for sure.
Very.
But I think the Niners are going to bounce back with a better offensive effort this week. I don't know if it's going to lead to a victory. I would doubt that it will. But I don't think it's going to be one of these, they score 3, they score 10, they get totally snuffed. I think they're going to make some plays, score some points. I think it will be a game in the 20s, but Philly may get 35 and the Niners may wind up with 24 or something like that. Something like that, I think, is what we're looking at.
I mean, you're telling me that the Niners might get 200 yards of total offense in this game or more?
Yeah,
I mean,
we're going, higher.
The bar is very low.
Like card sharks. Lower, higher.
Exactly. A funny stat, I didn't think it would come into play in this game, but as soon as it was 3rd and 17, I'm sitting next to Cam Inman of the Mercury News, my colleagues at the Merc, and I go, oh, they're doing the draw run, which is not a unique play on a 3rd and very long, especially in your own territory. Just set up the punt. You have a great punter in Michael Dixon. Just set up the punt. Except for the fact that there have been, going into this game, 3 conversions on a 3rd and 15th or longer on the run, and all of them were the Seattle Seahawks. They are now 4 out of the 4 that happened in the NFL this year, which is just hilarious. They're the only team that can pull off a 3rd and 15 or longer draw and get the first down. They're the only ones in football. And it was, so John Lynch maybe shouldn't have been so surprised. Maybe he should have listened to the Dieter and Hutch show and he would have had that scouting report. The bar is very, very low for this offense to take a step forward. That said, this is, in the NFC, this is the 2nd best defense. And man, they got some real dudes in the Eagles. Quinyon Mitchell's the only corner who hasn't gotten hit for a touchdown this season, who's been targeted 60 or more times. Cooper DeJean is a really, really excellent corner. They get Lane Johnson back on the offensive line. That offensive line isn't what it was, but it still has a chance to be above average and certainly beat this Niners defensive line, which I do think maybe they got their ass kicked because Seattle was able to go forward. But in pass pro, I thought that the Niners defensive line had its moments. That might flip now on its head in this game. But you just think about, the defensive ends that they're going with. Jalen Phillips, who's a guy that's certainly been talked about a lot on this channel because of trade deadline stuff. He always wanted to go play with Vic Fangio. He is playing with Vic Fangio. He's given them a real boost. This Jalix Hunt guy, I think, Sam Houston State? Where was Jalix Hunt out of?
No. I think he went to, is he Houston Baptist?
Yeah, he was FCS, something like that.
Let me look. But, he leads them in sacks and in interceptions.
He's long. He is long, super athletic, and skinny, and he really plays with some explosion.
Houston Christian.
I wonder. I mean, I guess it's in Houston, but I had never heard of it. And then Nolan Smith has been really good for them as well. And they're coming out. It's funny, one of the matchups, and I know it's not linebackers playing linebackers, but the Niners are going to be down to like you, me, and Eric Kendricks on Sunday. And the Eagles are coming out with Zach Braun, Nakobe Dean, and Jihad Campbell. So that's a bit of a mismatch. Like you're wondering if things can get worse at the linebacker level, as the Niners weren't able to manipulate Jones or Emani or Thomas at all in this past game. Like, Zach Braun, Nakobe Dean, and Jihad Campbell is a pretty damn good base if you ever want to be in base. So this is probably the second best defense in the NFC. And if my theory that, not going into sub packages and having just great athletes and just making the entire house out of, wings, if we're to use the basketball terminology again, if that is indeed what tripped Kyle Shanahan up, I'm wondering if Vic Fangio copies that, one, because he does have personnel that's fairly close. And then two, if he, if Kyle can maybe find some corrections in that, I wouldn't even know what the hell that would be. Do you have to reboot, Leon, or should I?
I think he means me.
Okay.
I think he means me. So let me reboot. I'll give me 30 seconds. I'll be back.
That's fine. Okay. Let's talk about what should we talk about? The linebacker situation is pretty dire here for the Niners. We're in some really tough, choppy waters for the Niners linebacker situation. So Bethune is out for the year with a torn groin. That is not a benefit to the 49ers, even though if you were to watch the tape against the Seahawks, you might actually think like, oh, at least that guy's not in there anymore, because he was getting washed out again and again and again in the run game and was a sitting duck in the pass game. That was maybe Bethune's worst game of the season. D. Winters is going to be touch and go for the entire week. They kind of need him, even though D. Winters had somehow even a worse game than Tatum Bethune. Winters was playing, frankly, out of control most of the game. In that realm of out of control, he did have a lot of opportunities, particularly early, to make plays, and he just missed. I counted a half dozen just missed opportunities, one-on-one tackles. And it was pretty clear that he was a focal point of Seattle's game plan, which is not surprising. Clint Kubiak doesn't have next-level stuff that he can call. He hasn't really built on anything, which is why Seattle's offense had really been struggling in the weeks prior. But if you're running the basic Kyle Shanahan stuff, so you're running Yankee concept against cover 3, all this stuff, the entire game is, again, predicated on getting linebackers to make the wrong decision. And the 49ers linebackers in this game were just easy pickings. Garrett Wallow's injured. I'm not sure if you wanted to play him anyway. Kendricks looked better than the other three. That doesn't mean he was particularly good. I guess Jalen Graham is on the roster. Curtis Robinson is on the roster. It doesn't say much that Curtis Robinson was a starting middle linebacker and then, gets healthy scratched for the last 2 games of the year.
What do you make of that? That was a weird one. I mean,
his tape was so bad. It was so bad.
But I mean, look at their alternatives are.
Well, now he's going to play. He has to play now.
Yeah.
And maybe he should take the advice I gave him. And this was mean advice, but it was advice nevertheless after week 15, which is just lay down, because at least someone might trip on you if you lay down. Because what he was doing otherwise was not helpful for the 49ers defense. I'm not sure what free agents currently exist on the marketplace. I don't know who's been sitting around waiting for an opportunity. They might get brought in this week to play a playoff game. Graham? I mean, I don't know if Winters is going to play. You need to have some. I mean, Stone Blanton might get into this game. Like, we're in pretty. I'm not saying he's going to play over any of those guys, but they just need bodies.
This is the biggest drop off in the Niners' talent of any position by far.
Right.
They have not gone. They went from Fred Warner, Dre Greenlaw, with Azeez Al-Shaair standing on the sideline waiting to run in a couple years ago, to none of them, and Stone Blanton and Eric Kendricks and Garrett Wallow and Jalen Graham. I mean, it's amazing. I said this 2 months ago.
Yeah,
they should have gone after some linebacker who could play from scrimmage. Mm-hmm. Instead, they're like, you know what, we got to have a special teams linebacker. Yeah, but guess what? Your special teams linebackers have to play. And what's more important, that you have a 10 special teamer who can't play from scrimmage, or a 6 special teamer, but he potentially could be a good player from scrimmage? I'll take the 6 special teamer who's got a future playing, on the weak side or strong side or the mic or whatever. They didn't show that eagerness to make that investment. I mean, Nick Martin, they drafted him in the 3rd round. Either they picked the wrong guy, they couldn't develop him. I don't know what to say about that. Shanahan was asked yesterday a question by Matt Barrows about Nick Martin's window because I think he has to spend one more week on the IR before he can be called back. But by the answer that Shanahan gave, it's clear he's not in their thinking. He's like, is he in or out of the protocol? Shanahan didn't know if Nick Martin was in or out of the protocol because he's not going to play because they've decided that weeks ago. He's got one more week on the IR, but he might as well have 1,000 weeks on the IR because they're not calling him up.
By the way, Latu, we'll see.
Right. They buried him. Now they're Garrett Wallow and Eric Kendricks.
Garrett Wallow's not good.
Well, and Eric Kendricks had the worst numbers last year against the pass of almost any linebacker. Now he's a year older.
You're telling me that the guy they were able to sign off the street who hadn't played football all year and they signed him in late November, early December. You're telling me that guy might not be what he once was?
I'm so unimpressed by the way they ran their linebackers this year. It's like you didn't take any chances on any young guys. You didn't develop anybody. Other teams developed. I mean, heck, the team that you just played had Jerome Baker and Terrell Dodson as their starting linebacker tandem. Dodson was like, I thought I was playing pretty well. And then Michael McDonald was like, you know what? Get out of here. Yep. We don't want you. He traded one of them. He cut one of them. He brought in Ernest Jones. He played Tyrese Knight. Now they came up with Drake Thomas this year. Now they've got like linebackers that are fast and making plays and flying all over the place and closing down that second level, all that space down.
Yep.
And they somehow did it. I mean, the 49ers acted like Fred Warner was the only guy who could play linebacker for them this year. When they lost him, they had no solutions. And
you're never going to replace Fred Warner, to be fair. But
but I mean, they have no linebackers who can cover. They're getting toasted and roasted with Gifford and Tatum Bethune, and now it's going to even be worse.
Yeah, listen, Bethune's a backup middle. He's probably the 28th or 29th best middle linebacker in football. He's good at filling the run. He's gap sound. He communicates okay. He's always going to be terrible in coverage, but that doesn't make him any different than like a Jake Landman for the Rams, right? And then with Winters, I mean, to Winters' credit, that guy can cover the flat. Not sure what else he can do, but he can really cover the flat. And so
when he's healthy, I mean, he's
healthy, and he's been really bad the last 3-4 weeks. Yeah,
his numbers have been bad as he's gotten more and more banged up. I'm just saying that the roster has gotten depleted. They haven't made one move other than Kendricks and Wallow. I mean,
yeah, but those aren't really moves. Those are just, I guess we need another guy here because the other guys that we have, and Martin and Robinson, we're not going to play them anymore. And so, which I don't disagree with either of those. I mean, they tried out Martin as a special teamer. I, being probably not a nice person, spent a lot of time watching Martin on special teams, and I can see why they stopped playing him on special teams. And at a certain point, at that point in the season, they just thought, okay, well, we don't trust him at all from scrimmage, and he's not good at special teams. So what are we doing here? Let's get him off.
What exactly is he not good at? I mean,
he was getting blown up on special teams. I mean, they were doing
most of the time. You want guys who are run fast and hit hard, and he undoubtedly runs fast and hits hard.
But it doesn't
show
matter
him what
if you
lane
can't,
to be in.
This is the issue, especially now with these condensed kickoff formations. You don't get the lanes like you used to. You don't get that head of steam, and so what would happen is he'd be coming down the field, and then here comes a tight end or a linebacker who's in blocking coverage, and he just gets totally sideswiped. He was getting knocked off his feet like repeatedly, and at a certain point, okay, well, we're not going to put him in there as a blocker on kick coverage. That's not really how they do punts and stuff like that. We don't need to relitigate Nick Martin because
I'm just kind of wondering why they lost Fred Warner October the 12th. It's now December the 5th, and they have not added a single linebacker that really is athletic. I mean,
There's not a lot of them sitting around.
I'll take your word for it that Martin's not the guy right now because he hasn't been the guy. But if they know he's not the guy, and they knew they weren't going to use him, and they knew that Curtis Robinson wasn't the guy, and they knew Fred Warner was done in week 6.
Yeah.
why didn't you go out and get a linebacker who could play from scrimmage? And so you don't have to sign Garrett Wallow. I mean,
Yeah.
it's really, I mean, that to me,
No, it's malpractice.
their handling of, I mean, their this roster. I thought they had a good draft, but the handling of the roster after the draft, since, I mean, you traded for Brian Robinson, you showed no interest in using him. It's like it's like you got. I feel like there's multiple people, multiple cooks in the kitchen, and it's like you got different people, and they're not necessarily working together. I don't know. It's a very bizarre thing. How did you get this thin at linebacker? And it's like you can't stop the run at all. And Fred Warner was easily your best coverage guy, and you haven't had him since week 6. And have you gotten real creative with 3 safeties? No. Have
No.
you went for some incredible coverage linebacker that you liked on somebody else's practice squad? No. You've just sat with what you had, and then then you kind of push Nick Martin out of the way for Eric Kendricks, and then you had to sign Garrett Wall. I mean, I don't know.
No,
It's
I'm with you
very,
on that.
very bizarre. The linebacking core used to be like an overwhelming strength, and it's gone from an overwhelming strength to replacement level.
I think that they wanted to give Robinson a shot. He's obviously a high character guy. They believe in his ability to communicate. And I do think that with all the communication issues that this team has on the back end, which have now been given to Jair Brown, doesn't seem like anything's getting better there, but they felt like, and it was pretty evident in tape, that they were having serious communication issues on getting everybody to run the same damn play. And in that, I think that they overvalued maybe smarts instead of the athleticism, because if Fred was there, Fred gives you all of it. Fred was calling his own defenses a year ago. Like, it was not, 2 years ago even. So when you lose that, and Fred Warner being one of the greatest linebackers of all time, okay, well, you can replace one of those two things. Clearly, it's a lot harder to replace Fred Warner, the player, and the athletic specimen, than it is to replace his communication. So they tried it with Bethune. I still think Bethune does a pretty good job in that. That's why they go to Kendricks at Mike, because he's worn the green dot before. But I think they wanted to give it a try with Robinson, and they tried it. You watch the tape for 2 weeks, and you go, we can't do this anymore. You have so many. You're so good at special teams that there's no room for Curtis Robinson there anymore. There's no room to work Nick Martin into things on special teams, because you are wasting a safety spot. By the way, a safety spot you probably could have used all year, on Saran Neal, who legitimately has been very good in special teams. You're wasting one on Luke Gifford, who, by the way, 49ers worst team in the NFL EPA per play in base. Wonder what the common denominator there is. Though, by the way, they tried to go into base at the beginning of this game with Kendricks at Sam, and they got immediately cooked. And it was only when Winters went out and they can no longer play in a 4-3 base that their run defense started to get just a little bit better. Man, it's almost as if they're terrible at dime, they're terrible at base. The only defensive alignment or formation personnel package that they've ever had any success with this season, and it's been literally 0.00 EPA, is straight nickel with Upton Stout on the field. And yet they're doing everything in their power to not run that stuff. And they just got way too cute with it. I was asked on our stream, on Jake and I's stream on Saturday, like, what position of all the positions, and we could literally go through all of them, do the Niners need to upgrade most? And I think most people expected me to say safety, because I believe safeties are destiny. And I don't like what I'm seeing from the 49ers safeties right now. And I think that the way they handled Marquise Siegel is peculiar at its lightest. You could easily point to defensive line. And I think that any defensive tackle besides Alfred Collins and CJ West needs to go. I do think their defensive end group for next year might be the best in the NFL once you get back Michael, who, by the way, their run defense became the worst in the NFL week 9 on, and was 70% better when Michael was in. So something to be read into there. But Bosa and Michael come back. Now you got Huff, Michael, Keon White, and Sam Aquanu. I like that combo. You can mention corner because Renardo Green had one of the worst corner games I've ever seen against JSN. Diamador Lenore gets called for a PI early. They never even try to get him over on the side as JSN again. They just played, straight zone after that. But I do think, and I mean, obviously now it seems like the obvious answer because you've laid it out so well. Linebacker is the position where, okay, you might feel good about your starters next year. You might even feel good about Bethune as one backup. You need 2, 3, or 4 more. It's almost like starting pitchers. It's all you need to have just horses in the stable ready to go, and you need to be developing. And I hate to bring up the Nick Martin thing. We are beating a dead horse to mix analogies again, but like they get to the third round. Let's not forget how they handled their draft process this year, which was, we have a bunch of time and we just hired Robert Saleh. He gets to pick all the defensive players, and we're going to take nothing but defensive players. And they get to the third round. They look at their needs. They say, we need a linebacker. We need a weak side linebacker. And if we don't get one now, we're probably not going to be able to come back and get one. Who do we like? Who do we like? And it sounded like they panicked, and they liked Narton, unquestionably, but they drafted him too early, in my estimation, probably 2 or 3 rounds too early, even if they liked him, because they had just targeted third-round middle linebacker. And once Schlesinger went, there was a little bit of a run there. And I think that they panicked and didn't want to trade up and lose draft assets and all that stuff to go and get there, another guy. Who that would be, I don't know. So they kind of get caught at the tail end of it. They take Martin, and that has been a critical error on this season amongst so many others.
It's so bizarre because Johnny Holland told me in August that in his opinion, Martin is going to be a very special football player.
Yeah. Well, he's special in one way, though he can't play special teams. And he might be that. He might be that. But Johnny Holland also said that. What did he tell you about Stone Blanton, or was this something he told Jake about Stone Blanton?
Oh, that he likes Stone Blanton. That Stone Blanton plays hard. He's a good player.
Johnny Holland's a tire pumper.
I don't know, man. Johnny was legitimately excited about Martin. There's a backstory to Martin. There is. I don't know what it is. I'm going to try to find it out. There is some backstory. There's a story that we don't know. There's a story that we don't know. Either he did something or he's not the kind of guy they want, whatever. We're gonna find out eventually, because it's just this guy's easily one of the most athletic guys in the whole room. He never plays. They got a tremendous need there. They took him in the third round. They either made the wrong pick or they're not making the right decisions now. One or the other. They can't be right then and right now. The bottom line is their linebackers, they just came off a game where they missed 23 tackles, and their linebackers missed 11 combined tackles, 5 for Bethune, 4 for Winters. Yeah. 9 from those 2 guys alone. Mustafa. I mean, the Seahawks missed 3 tackles. The Niners missed 23 or whatever, or 18.
They had like 5 guys that had more than that alone.
Not to mention, this was the game that they really needed Ricky Pearsall. Purdy had 5 pass attempts over 10 yards. Only one of those, was really a good play to a wide receiver. The Niners wide receivers are molasses. That they can't get Cowing or Watkins on the field, is impacting their run game now, because nobody is worried about down the field. So everybody, the Seahawks were like, hey, we're going to keep 2 safeties deep. And because we just believe our the rest of our team can just handle the run, and we're just going to take away any idea of you throwing it down the field. So really there wasn't a lot there, but there's no speed. Jennings, Bourne, Demarcus Robinson, George Kittle, Kyle Juszczyk, what do these guys all have in common? They all run 4.75. They're all really, really slow. So in the grand scheme of things, where you've got a league where guys run 4.3 or 4.2 or 4.4 or whatever, and they have one guy who contributes this year who ran fast. It was Ricky, and he couldn't go. And what really is kind of bothersome is that Jennings is getting his ass kicked. And it's like, it's obvious to everybody that Jennings has a way higher pain tolerance than Pearsall. And it's got to be noticeable to Jennings. I mean, I'm sure he knows. I mean, everybody else knows. Jennings gets popped, he gets up. Jennings was absolutely, if you watch that film again,
oh my God,
Jennings was irate You know what he was irate at? The trainer for coming out when he got lit up early and he was
I
down.
thought he was. Yeah, I thought he
got hit in
separated
the
his shoulder. I
ribs.
thought he was dead.
Well, he got hit in the ribs and he's got a couple broken ribs. So obviously that hurts like a mother. And
Yeah.
so, but when the trainer came out, he's like yelling at him, like, "Don't! How dare you come out here?" I mean, he was like, he wanted to know because it's like it's a code, man. It's a code of toughness,
Yep.
and it's like this guy believes in the code, and now his teammates Pearsall and Pearsall couldn't get out there, and the idea that he could have gotten out there if the game had been Sunday. God, I don't think
there's another story
I
there.
don't think Shanahan did him any favors by throwing that little nugget out there because that just makes it look like it's all a pain tolerance thing. And then Shanahan today gave him a pass because he's like, well, this is the nature of these PCL injuries.
Yep.
But wow, I mean, I don't know what to say other than they need this guy. He's not out there. They can't replicate, what he does. They opened the practice window for Cowing. I'm a big fan of Cowing and what I saw on the college film. He looked great. And Jordan Watkins really looked great. And so to me, I'd like to see those guys down the field. Why? Because I actually kind of feel like they're not just little receivers who can run. They're guys that can actually make plays on the ball in the air down the field, which would mean that they're really impact kind of guys, which would mean they're exactly what they need right now. And yet, will they throw either of them a pass? Will they make any of those? What will be the over-under on Cowing, Watkins, and Pearsall targets in this game? What will be the over-under?
I mean, I would set the over-under at 7.5 because I think Pearsall has to play, and I think they'll force feed him the ball because he's the only guy who can get open in man-to-man.
And maybe all those targets go to him because I don't see any going to Watkins.
Jordan Watkins has one more catch than Connor Colby this year.
Right, but he's also got one more catch than Cowing.
Yeah, well, you can't divide by 0.
So, I mean, it's like, can these guys – I personally think both these guys can play. And that's what's so freaking frustrating watching this. And I got to think that there are people in the Niners personnel department that are really, really frustrated with this coaching staff. You can't get Nick Martin out there at all, and you're leaning on Garrett Wallow and Eric Kendricks. You can't get Jordan Watkins or Jacob Cowing out there at all, and you have nothing but 4-7 wide receivers, and the Seahawks are just toying with you because you don't have any speed to combat them. I mean, if I was in this Niner, front office and I drafted these guys and they were sitting there not playing, I would be breaking shit.
The problem is you didn't. You gave some evals, and then the draft room, then a draft broke out, as John Lynch likes to say, and Jed's in there holding court and sending tweets, and embarrassing. And it was pretty clear. So again, in prior years, because the Niners had so much playoff success, they didn't get to do, they had to lean on the scouting department. Now that scouting department's been pillaged over the last 4 or 5 years because as you've even seen now, teams are like, well, who's a good program? Well, the 49ers, let's go get their guys. And they've had GMs, getting hired. I mean, Rank Harthan got hired and has been fired since this whole thing started getting going. So you lose a lot of dudes. I mean, you see this all the time in the college ranks where it's like, oh, well, your defensive coordinator is now the head coach, or like, Tosh Lupoy is now the head coach at Cal. Well, he's going to bring a bunch of assistant coaches from Oregon down to Cal, and he's going to give them promotions on that. So this is just general personnel stuff that happens every offseason to the point where I have said this on this show. I've said it certainly many times on my show. Like, I don't get the sense talking to scouting people with other teams in the division and in the conference and in the league. I don't get the sense that the same respect from the people who are boots on the ground still exists for the 49ers scouting department as it once did. And it unquestionably did because of all the pillaging that happened. And now we've entered a Peter Principle sort of area of promotion. So in that, I think that they know, hey, our scouting department's not as strong as it once was, and they can cross-check and stuff. But again, this is the weird part. It's not as if Robert Saleh didn't make these picks on the defensive side. So it is a fair question. Why isn't Nick Martin playing? You're the one who took him, Robert. You got the Bill Parcells. If you want me to cook the meal, you better let me shop for the ingredients. You got to shop for the ingredients. Then you got the ingredients and you go, that doesn't taste very good. I don't want to cook with that. So it's your fault on either end of this thing, and it's your fault on both ends of this thing as it stands. And perhaps in the future, you can turn into a player. I thought Tatum Bethune wasn't a very good player last year. He was certainly a fine player this year. So guys can get better and guys can progress. But when you look at, in general, like the scouting stuff, like I don't think that they can sit around and say, I don't know, because Kyle's the one who's making the call on a Jordan Watkins, and his assistants it was the coaches who did it this year because the coaches had nothing but time on their hands this offseason. They got deep into the draft process. And as we have seen in the past, when things like that have happened, it doesn't always work out so well. This is why you have scouts. This is why you have a front office that is somewhat insulated from the coaching staff. This is why you don't necessarily adhere to the Parcells principle. It's why Kyle has had to take a step back, whether it was mandated or he came to Jesus on his own, why Kyle had to take a step back from actually being the head personnel guy for the San Francisco 49ers and cede that responsibility to John Lynch. But then it all came back around last year. And to their credit, I like Michael. I like Alfred Collins. I like Siegel, though that's, again, a Robert Saleh thing. Like, obviously, Upton Stout has been fantastic for them. They've had hits. They did a good job on certain picks, but they needed all of them. It's an unfair proposition because no one ever goes for 1,000% in the draft, but they needed all of them this year, and that was before everyone got flipping injured, and they now don't have them. So, yes, would it have been nice if Jordan Watkins was in there? Yeah, sure, but they didn't practice with him all week because they thought that Pearsall was going to go, and I got to wonder if there's a little bit of angst in, hey man, you couldn't have told us you were out earlier. You couldn't have pulled yourself out well beforehand, so we could have practiced with somebody else and maybe changed our game plan up a little bit so that we didn't, have this thing entirely riding on you. But you're out there limited all week long. You're out there, giving it your best, and we're expecting you to play, and then you pull yourself out, from what I've heard, before the game even starts. You don't even give it a go. Well, we're not going to play Watkins. He didn't practice all week. He doesn't have any reps with any of these guys. We're not going to play him. So I guess it's Demarcus Robinson and his, 2-yard out routes, which don't exist anywhere in the playbook. And I guess it's a lot of Kendrick Bourne, who had one whole target and 0 catches. So I if you want to be pissed at anybody in this thing, be pissed at Kyle, be pissed at Robert. And, I do wonder, and I'm excited to get to the bottom of it on Wednesday, like what exactly happened with Pearsall, who was able to practice at least in a limited fashion for 3 straight days and then isn't even warming up before the game. Like what happened between Thursday, Friday, and then Saturday at 5 p.m.
Did you hear the presser today?
No.
It was unbelievable. It was like people asking these questions about Pearsall. So what happened with Ricky? Did he have a setback? And Kyle's like, no, he didn't have a setback. He just re-aggravated it.
When?
Well, that's what he said. He re-aggravated it. And he referenced the PCL. So he's got a knee and an ankle, but it's obviously the knee that's the problem. And he's like, well, did he have a setback? No, he didn't have a setback. He just kind of re-aggravated it. Well, isn't that a setback? I mean, what are we talking
like a step
about?
Forward.
I was listening to the whole injury breakdown today, and it was like Tatum Bethune is out with the groin. He tore the groin. He's done for the year. Okay, that's clear. But then when he got to everybody else, D. Winters, Ricky Pearsall, Trent Williams, Luke Gifford, Keon White, Jair Brown, he's like, that guy, we're going to continue evaluating him later this week. We're going to continue evaluating him later this week. This guy's day-to-day. Right. We're going to continue. I'm like, what the fuck is what are we talking about? What is the status of these guys? I mean, can we get some straight answers?
No.
I mean, is it that hard? How about this? Yeah. They're all fucking questionable.
Yeah.
How about that? They're all fucking questionable, and we don't know. But to say that this guy we're evaluating these guys, Trent Williams got a hamstring. We're reevaluating at the end of the week. Luke Gifford's got a blankety blank. He's day-to-day. Keon White's got a blankety blank. We're reevaluating later in the week. Jair Brown, he's day-to-day. What's the difference? I mean, what is the difference between, and what is day-to-day? Is day-to-day probable? Is day-to-day questionable? Is day-to-day doubtful? Is day-to-day out? What is day-to-day?
Distinguish that until Friday after practice.
I know, but I mean, it's like we're now creating new avenues here. Some guys
Yeah.
we're evaluating later in the week. Well, isn't that if you're evaluating somebody later in the week, wouldn't you say that jives with day to day? So, but then he's like, some guys they're evaluating later in the week, and other guys are day to day. And I'm like trying to figure out, well, are we wishing for day to day, or are we wishing for evaluation later in the week? I don't know.
I
I
don't
mean,
know. I mean, if I had to
it's
parse
like a
it, it's
big
day to day means every day we're going to see if they can practice or not, and evaluate at the end of the week is these guys aren't going to practice, and we're going to find out on Thursday or Friday if we feel like we can stick a questionable tag on them or just rule them out.
Doesn't it sound though like they're all in the questionable category?
Unquestionably, it's just
It's-
it's just a question on if they're doubtful or not.
Why can't we just say they're questionable?
Yeah, because
Well.
day to day
Anyway, it's
sounds
not.
better.
Yeah,
Day to day makes the Philadelphia Eagles spend 5 minutes thinking about them.
yeah. This guy's. We're going to evaluate him later in the week. We're
By
going to
the way,
evaluate.
what football player that's played any meaningful football isn't day to day at this point?
Oh, I know. Seriously, everybody's got like 5 different things.
I mean,
if you're not hurt at this point, it just means that you're not good. You don't play.
right.
Garendo might be good. Nobody else is good. Everybody
Now's
else.
your chance to play him at linebacker, Lair.
Seriously. Hey, have you seen the way I move towards those tacos? I mean, they might want my first step when there's tacos on the table. I mean, they might want to throw me at linebacker.
I'm just saying.
I'm angry. At least I'll bring some anger.
Mike McDonald's going to wonder about your effort, though. He coaches for effort. That's my big takeaway on McDonald. He coaches for effort, and you can flip and see it, man. Those guys fly.
All right, it is time for our sleeper lineup. 49er football season is presented by Sleeper, the fastest growing fantasy platform in the world. It's a one-stop shop. You get blazing fast news, real-time stats, group chat, season-long leagues, and of course, Sleeper picks for daily fantasy. Use promo code Larry, easy to remember, Larry. Sleeper will match your first deposit up to $100. Links in the description. Terms and conditions do apply. Thanks to Sleeper for being a proud sponsor of the Krueger Show all year. There is the overlay. Get a $100 deposit match up to $100. Use code Larry. All right, let's make a lineup. Let's make a lineup and make some money. We got close last week, but we lost out because I was looking for the JJ anytime touchdown, and of course they scored 3 points. So we know how that worked out. But then we hit like 3 of the 5. Didn't hit them all last week. What do you like? Is there anything, if I just said to you, daily fantasy, any angle, any player, Niners, Eagles,
I'll give you 3.
Which one comes to mind?
Give me more on Saquon. Give me more on Devontae Smith. Give me more on Dallas Goedert.
All right, let's take a look at Saquon first.
Yeah.
Now, we can go anytime touchdown on Saquon. We can go 80.5 rush yards.
He's going for 5 a clip in December.
15.5 receiving yards is a really low number.
Yeah, they haven't been throwing him the ball out of the backfield that often. I would say,
if you think the Eagles are going to win this game easily, I would say the 19.5 rush attempts probably is pretty safe.
No, because they like Tank Bigsby now, and they will give him touches. I'm going to go.
They're really dominating. They'll pull Barkley.
Yep. I would
go all purpose. You go rush and receiving 102. You go.
I'd keep it simple. I'd go over 80.5 on the rush yards.
Okay, I agree.
I think he busts a big one and is otherwise going for about 5 a clip.
More than 80.5 rush yards for Saquon. All right, let's take a look at Dallas Goedert. Let's look at Goedert because Goddard's got 11 touchdowns.
Yes, he does.
He is likely to score a touchdown, I would say.
I like the receptions. Right? Think who's going to be covering him in this game? The answer is nobody.
Right.
So,
5 receptions is a lock.
And think about Jalen Hurts' MO. He'll just take the check down if it's there every time. The Niners are going to have to sell out on the deep stuff. It's going to be Goddard for 7, 8, 9, 10 catches in this game.
I think the longest reception is probably going higher too. But let's go with receptions. Let's go more than 4.5 receptions on Dallas Goedert. All right.
No one wants that, by the way, according to that. And those people, everybody's wrong except me.
Let's go Purdy. Let's go Purdy on the rush.
Sure.
Rush, because Purdy's going to run. Purdy's going to run for his life. He always does. When there's money on the table, there's money on the table. He's running. He's going to run for sure. Let's see what that number looks like. What is his rushing total? 18.5 yards.
You might get that on a carry.
More.
More.
That's for the game? Yeah,
Yeah.
that's more. He's going
I mean, to be fair, there's sacks involved in that.
right.
Yeah,
But
sort of.
he's not he's not easy to get a sack.
True.
And I think he is going to run. I think he'll be some designed runs.
I think that's right.
So there you go on that one. Let's do one more.
Do you have a Devontae Smith anytime touchdown? Devonta, sorry.
He is their downfield threat for sure.
Yeah, I would go over 51.5. Well, actually, the longest reception feels like the right play there.
Yeah, I think so too. He's going to have a 25-yard reception as sure as we're sitting here.
I mean,
for sure.
Yeah, I can already see Jair Brown breaking late on it if he plays.
Yeah, I mean I bet he has a couple of those.
Yeah.
You want one more, or you want to go with 4?
No, I think that we've nailed this.
Okay, let's go. Let's put 10 on it, so we feel cocky. Let's go. We'll go 10 on it. We'll see what I'll put 5 on it. We'll go jump into 10.
Coming out of my paycheck.
There you go. 10 gets us 117.20. I like that. So Purdy's got to run for at least 19 yards on the day. Barkley's got to have at least 81 yards rushing.
Right.
Goddard's going to have 5 receptions, and Devontae Smith has to have a 22-yard reception.
Yeah, well, that seems pretty straightforward to me.
Yeah, we're cashing on this. We are cashing.
We're really selling a hell of a story for the Niners here, aren't we?
Well, we're honest. We're honest, and maybe that's the problem. There you go. Check out Sleeper. Thanks to Sleeper. We appreciate Sleeper. They're fantastic. We're having a ton of fun with Sleeper. Sleeper's the best. I love my family, but I really love Sleeper.
Oh my God. Don't tell Kevin.
I mean, he
probably loves Sleeper too.
I really enjoy my family, but I really love Sleeper. I mean, really. All right. Let's talk a little bit about the matchup with the Eagles. Give me one reason to feel good about the Niners in this matchup. Why don't we start there?
I think the Niners have the better quarterback. And
I do too. Better head coach, better quarterback.
Better head coach, better quarterback, better coordinators. Save for defensive, but Vic can sometimes get a little too cute and sometimes push it a little too fast. I think that Purdy can make plays here. It's going to be tough, but I think he can. I think that if they have the outside man-to-man threat to pull Mitchell to one side of the field, I think that there's the floods and the overs that you can get on the opposite side. I think that Kittle, coming off of a bad game, isn't going to follow that up with the second bad game. I think that as strange as this sounds against the defensive line with some of the players that they have, I think that the Niners can get push up front from their offensive line if they're able to go downhill. I question them coming backwards now in pass pro, but I do think that if they can push forward and run the ball, especially if Trent is in there, they can get more than maybe they bargained for on that. They have the better quarterback, and I think that the vibes in Philly are peculiar, strange, and bad. I think that the Niners have responded exceptionally well all year to getting their asses kicked, though never as strongly as they got their asses kicked in Week 18. I think that if the 49ers are a team of character, and I think that is a very fair claim to put on them, that they're a team of character, because they might not have anything else going for them. The Eagles are not. And in a playoff game where the cheese is just a bit more binding on the road might be good for them. I think that having the better quarterback and the better head coach and a little something to prove now that they've been embarrassed publicly might be enough to create a differentiation between their roster and the Eagles roster, because I know which one of those two is better. And it's not the 49ers, but doesn't matter late in the game, frankly. And I'll take Brock Purdy over Jalen Hurts, and I understand that one of those guys has won a Super Bowl.
Yeah, I like Purdy more than Hurts. I like Shanahan more than Sirianni.
Is
like
Sirianni's headset even plugged in? I mean, like, what does he do?
Seriously, he's like about as important as the kid that says you're going next on the tidal wave at Great America. Yeah. I mean, he just has no importance at all. He's just standing there.
Do you think they fire him if the Eagles lose?
No, because I think Roseman and him have a good setup where Roseman didn't play football clearly, and yet he's allowed to be the guy there personnel wise, and he doesn't tell Sirianni how to coach, I don't think, and Sirianni doesn't tell him how to draft. And I think they're kind of they're two flawed guys that fit together like a puzzle piece. So I think he stays. But I think the Eagles' other issue is their defense since week 11. DVOA is number 4 in the league, but their offense since week 11 is 25th. So their offense is not exactly cooking. And then if you look at the Niners special teams unit, the Niners have the top special teams unit in the NFL since week 11. The Eagles special teams unit since week 11 is ranked 24th.
Yeah.
So I definitely think that the 49ers have some advantages in this game. I also think Purdy bounces back from losses at a really high level. I think Shanahan does as well. I think Saleh may be able to throw some wrinkles that bother Kevin Patullo, who's kind of been under the gun this year as Philly's offensive coordinator.
You don't say.
The Niners are going to have to tackle better. I mean, it's as simple as that. The thing about the Eagles that, the reason I like the Eagles to win the game is I think they're going to make this degree of difficulty very hard for Brock Purdy. The Eagles lead the NFL in quarterback completion percentage on defense. They hold opposing quarterbacks to 56.5%. So that's expect tight window throws. And if you have enough tight window throws, there's usually a pick. So I do think Purdy's going to wind up throwing a pick. But who knows? He might be really, really sharp. Philly's corner opposite Quinyon Mitchell has left a lot to be desired. Their linebackers can cover, no doubt, much more so than the Niners can. But if the Niners can score in the 24 to 28 range and get a turnover or two on defense and get a lead early in the game, all those things have to happen for the 49ers. But if the Niners can have those things happen, I think they could squeeze out a win on the road because there's a lot of pressure on Philly. If they think about it this way, it's a 4-quarter game, right? Mm-hmm. But really, if you're the 49ers, all you really need to have is one big half.
We've seen
because
that.
If you have one big half, there will be so much negativity, so much pressure, so much angst, so much Philly fan angst that it will choke the air out of the Eagles. All the Niners need is have a big first half, and I think the second half will just fall in their lap. Absolutely perfect. So it's a big if because Philly still should come out, try to establish Saquon Barkley and have success doing it, and then maybe it's game over from there. But who knows? I mean, it's possible. The Niners have a puncher's chance. Let me ask you this. Let me ask you the big question here. Is this a successful season either way? Or, some people, the low graders are like, hey, they're 12-5. They didn't have Purdy. They didn't have this guy, the Ayuk, all the excuses. It's been a great year no matter what. I'm kind of pushing back on that. I don't really think it's a great year. You had the easiest schedule in the NFL by
turn out that way.
It didn't turn out that way, but on paper at the beginning of the year in 15 years, it did not turn out that way.
17th.
That was actually the number that I do think, if there was one thing that I would point to as why I think the 49ers might have a better chance in this game is that I think the prevailing wisdom, Dieter, is that, oh, man, the Niners got here with a cake schedule, right? It was just cake. It was cake. And that really wasn't the case.
No, it wasn't.
The 49ers' final strength of schedule was .498. Yep. Okay, that's not great. That means that the win percentage of the teams that they played was slightly under 500.
Right.
But that's not even close to the worst in the league. How about this? This is the list of playoff teams that had a worse strength of schedule
starting with the
this
Patriots
year than the Niners. Bears, Eagles, Packers, Patriots, Broncos, Jaguars, Bills, Chargers, and Seattle had the identical strength of schedule to the Niners. So this idea that the Niners, and you're going to hear this from people because it's like, if your premise is wrong or your conclusion's wrong. And the premise was, the Niners had a cake schedule. And now people, if they get bounced, will be like, see, they had a cake schedule. Nope. But in reality, their strength of schedule was better than 8 playoff teams.
I mean, the flip side of that is their only losses this season have all come to teams that, at least going into the final Sunday, had a chance to make the playoffs. So they're 4 losses. Right, they lost to Jacksonville, playoff team. They lost to Tampa, who took care of their own business and then didn't get the help from the Saints. I wouldn't hold up Tampa as something, but when they played, Tampa was one of the hottest teams in football, and Baker Mayfield was being talked about as an MVP. They lose that game. They lost to the Texans, playoff team. They lost to the Rams, playoff team. They lost to the Seahawks, playoff team, 1 seed. So maybe it kind of feeds into the cake schedule in when you played the really, really good teams, save for the 1 win against Seattle and the 1 win against the Rams. Yeah, you cleaned up. You cleaned up. You played 4 teams that fired their head coaches this year, one of which they fired pretty much immediately afterwards. I think Raheem Morris was dead the second that the 49ers beat Atlanta, and he was staring into the headlights in the half distance on Sunday Night Football. Stefanski gets fired. You got to play a team that already had a fired head coach. So, yeah, it goes both ways. I don't think that it holds up as the best argument, but I don't think that there's not some validity there because, again, outside of week 1 and week 5, who did the Niners beat? I'm all ears on that one. Carolina, like
Bears, I guess the Bears.
Bears, Carolina. I mean, 2 teams that have very long shots to win the Super Bowl. So I think it just cuts both ways, and maybe you just have to drop that one. I'm only interested in that narrative for it to move the line a little bit more because I do think that the Eagles will win this game, but I'm hoping that line moves from 4.5 to maybe 5.5. Hey, maybe you can get me to 6, in which case I'm taking the Niners. So I think it's going to be a much better game than maybe logic would serve. But then again, when is logic really applied to the 2025 San Francisco 49ers? To answer your initial question, though, Larry, I think this is absolutely a successful season. Was it the most, highest level of success? No, not on the field. I do think that they will lose in this postseason, perhaps as soon as Sunday. But they have something. They certainly showed a very high end on the high level on the offensive side this season, despite having 2 different quarterbacks, long absences from Kittle, no number 1 wide receiver. The guy who steps in as the number 1 wide receiver missed a lot of time. Juwan Jennings playing through injury. You rode McCaffrey as far as you could in all likelihood. They found ways to win on offense with an offense that I think you give those parts to any other coach and it all falls apart. And I do think that they have something foundational that they can build off of on the defensive end. We will go into all the ways that they can upgrade. But when you're talking about the defensive end group, which I'm very fond of, when you're talking about Collins and West as a 1-2, you can build around that. You get Fred back. Winters look pretty good next to Fred. There's some stuff that you can work with linebacker. You need to add there, sure. You probably have your corners. Fascinated to see what Renardo Green does in this game after that absolute dud. But he had been pretty good prior to his neck injury and whatever the hell that was in week 18. And then I have no idea what they're doing at safety. And I'm not even going to waste everyone's time by going through all of the complaints I have at safety. But I think Malik Mustafa is a good player, and I think that Marquise Siegel could be a good player. And I think that Jair Brown, if you wanted to play him at big nickel, could be an asset for you moving forward. Now, that's not how they're doing it, so maybe it's all for naught. But I do think that defensively there are pieces in place, particularly with Stout and Collins and West again, Keon White and Michael Williams, all that. I think there are pieces in place where you can say, hey, we can build off of this. And next year, if we make the right picks, if we sign the right players, we can really be a top 10 unit on that side of the ball. It seems ridiculous now, but it wasn't so ridiculous 4, 5, 6 weeks ago. And then, yeah, offensively, if you have Brock Purdy as your quarterback, Kyle Shanahan as your coordinator, and George Kittle and whatever you got left from Christian McCaffrey, you get a wide receiver or 2, you're off to the races now. I do think this has been a very successful season, if for no other reason than they turned around special teams, Larry. And that was obviously priority number 1 coming into the campaign.
That was a positive for sure. But I still would, to me, I don't like I like easy to discern. To me, I want them to win a playoff game before I'm going to say, yeah, this was a successful year. This is the 49ers. They have 5, they have 5 Super Bowls. It's like you don't go 12-5 and not win a playoff game and be like, yeah, it was good. No, it wasn't good. It wasn't a disaster. There were some good moments, but there was Too many frustrations personnel wise.
I mean, Larry, like almost half of their cap was dead money or Brandon Ayuk. That's pretty impressive to make the playoffs and to have a fight for the 1 seed in week 18 when half of the money you're allowed to spend doesn't play for you. Like that's impressive. That's why internally they kept talking about 26, 26, 26.
No,
it is. It's self-inflicted, but that's impressive.
No. That's like saying that your neighbor is super impressive, that they, live through having mold growing in their house, that they went unabated, that they opted not to have abated. It's like, no, is it commendable that they're still alive and they have been taken over by the mold that's grown through their lungs? Or, yeah, I guess, but still they're the idiots that that allowed all this mold to fester.
You're making the argument that I used to make.
You picked all these guys. These are every guy. You picked all these receivers. You picked all these D linemen. You picked all these O linemen. Every guy, every scout, everybody, every coach, everything. You've picked. You've been here forever. So they didn't have quite enough. Is like they put together the roster. They set their budget. They decided not to go after any undrafted free agents, despite the fact they had huge needs, and it was a very good draft for undrafted free agents.
It was.
They sat it out voluntarily to save a buck. Yep. No. Their weaknesses roster-wise are on them. They don't get a pass because they were injured. Everybody's injured. Tampa's injured. All kinds of teams are injured. Every team in the league, Tucker Kraft's out for the year. Ed Oliver's not coming back. You got all kinds of guys. Their dead cap is because of their bad decisions. So
and their cheapness.
Yeah, but I mean their dead cap. So I don't. Yeah, I mean it's amazing with all the restraints they had that they accomplished a 12-5. But right. They're the ones who restrained themselves.
Yep.
And you didn't have to. You could. The way the cap works, you can keep kicking that thing down the road. Well, was this the best year to take it when you had Trent Williams, CMC, Kittle, the Super Bowl at home, a down year, a wide open conference? Was this really the best year to take a step back and be not competitive?
Yeah, but you can't say that in retrospect. It was the only year they could. They're up against the cap in 27 now. Like they made the decision. That, and again, I don't.
So they have $50 million under the cap right now, going into this.
Well, they got to roll it into next year and the year after that. I'm just saying, half of the money that they spend is in dead money.
I hear you,
but those
are their bad decisions.
I don't disagree with that, yeah, but if we're talking about if it was a success or not, ostensibly, no, they didn't compete for a Super Bowl. They're not earnestly competing for a Super Bowl. They lost their chance to do that by losing in week 18 in an embarrassing fashion. So no, it isn't. But if we're asking people inside the building, they're going to say, yeah. They're going to say, yeah, with aplomb because because it was all about 26. And by the way, in a weird
You've been saying that all year.
And because it's been true all year, it's all about 26. And they do feel like, with certain exceptions, right?
Okay,
it hasn't been perfect.
Will you at least acknowledge this then?
Yeah.
If this is all about 26,
yep,
then there will be no structural changes of significance to any of the decision-making processes going forward into 26.
That's right.
Right?
Certainly not to my knowledge, and I have no indication from anyone I've talked to that that's
because if that does, that flies. Would you agree that would fly in the face of it's all about 26 if they somehow relieved one of their major key guys of their duties? 100%. Or move them into a non-decision-making role, then I don't know. But I hear you. I understood.
But by the way, I
didn't agree with it. But
I don't agree with it either. Let's be clear about it. I don't agree with it either. But everything is expectations versus reality. And honestly, the only expectations that matter are the guy who writes the checks. So Jed's expectation was, I'm willing to take the hit this year. Such a weird
year to do it.
Well, I think that
there's going to be a referendum on your on your franchise and on the job that you're doing and on the job that your coach and GM is doing just because you're the Super Bowl host.
Every year's a referendum.
But really it is when you're a Super Bowl contender and then the Super Bowl's at your stadium.
Do we talk about the Dolphins or the Texans or the Cardinals all that much? Like, I don't think so. Like, I really don't. Like, I don't think.
But those teams weren't Super Bowl contenders. That's what I'm saying. If the Super Bowl were in Kansas City this year, we'd be talking about the referendum on Kansas City. If it was in Buffalo, we'd be talking because these are Super Bowl contenders that have fallen short. The Niners are a Super Bowl contender that has fallen short and actually fallen short, at the closest moments.
Right.
So the fact, I just think that, we'll see. We'll see when it gets to Super Bowl week. But I just kind of think that Radio Row, they'll discuss the Super Bowl teams. But when they're discussing the league, since it is in San Francisco, there might be a few conversations about, where are the Niners?
There absolutely will be. But I'll throw this your way. I don't think that they care. Like, I don't know if that's right or wrong. I think that they believe, and this is
they should care because they're not going that good. I mean, they haven't won a Super Bowl Dieter in 30 years.
I'm aware.
I mean, we're talking the San Francisco Giants have 3 titles since the Niners last won a Super Bowl. Think about that for a second.
I'm with you. I think it's 14 other teams have won a Super Bowl since the Niners last won a Super Bowl. They have what is it? They have the 4th longest drought. 6th longest drought in the NFL if we're only including teams that have won one. Like, yeah,
nobody
we all make fun of the Dallas Cowboys for not having won a Super Bowl since 95. You know what's longer than that?
94.
San Francisco 49ers in 94. Now the Niners have been
the Niners have been way better run since.
And this is again where it is. So they looked at this season, they said, okay, here's what we want to do. We want to pay our best players. In order to do that, we're going to have to do what they call the Rams model. And that means we're going to have to cut all middle class and rebuild with the draft from the bottom up. And hopefully those guys can meet our top players before those top players age out. It's a very dangerous calculus. It probably doesn't work. That's the bet that they made.
It's not helped by sitting out the undrafted free agent period. That does not help.
But again, Jed made he was spending over $300 million in cash expenditures every year. And he made the call that he wasn't going to do that this year. So I'm not sure what the undrafted free agents would have done to that bottom line, but when you got to pay Robert Saleh a bunch of money and they're going to pay him even more, because it does seem as if Bob's going to get some pretty interesting offers in a very underwhelming coaching cycle. And the Niners are, from what I've heard, prepared to give him a pay increase to keep him around, to make staying here more enticing. That's where they wanted to put their money. They wanted to put it in areas that weren't on the salary cap. And let's not forget, like, they didn't need to get rid of a guy like Leonard Floyd. Now, I have no problem with them getting rid of Leonard Floyd, but they didn't have to. They cut him entirely so that they didn't have to pay him. That's it. Because the cap
same
number,
with Malik Collins.
Same. It was just, the cap number, it doesn't really matter what you do. Well, it does matter when you're cutting the checks. So if the guy
shouldn't, though, it really shouldn't. Not with the revenue streams that they enjoy. To pinch pennies on this thing at this point with the revenue streams that they have and where their core players are in their career is 10 times stupid.
It's not good. I'm telling you what they're thinking. That's all I'm saying. And again, don't agree with it.
Very bright. You're not making them look very smart right now.
Yeah, but they're richer.
Not really. No, they're not, because actually the greatest growth is going to be the growth of the value of the franchise growing, and it grows by exponentially when you go to the Super Bowl, and the teams that go to the Super Bowls see that growth, and the teams that win the Super Bowl see even more growth. And believe it or not, the teams that make the playoffs and spend a lot of money to get there, they actually see the least growth.
Yeah,
so it's actually
who's been selling off parts of the team once every 6 weeks all season?
Yeah, what's that about?
It's free cash.
Yeah, but based on, you're selling off a tiny little percentage for $1 billion, and it's all in the grand scheme.
It's less than
$1
billion because the team is worth like 8 or 9. I think they've been offering
like $900 million, wasn't it?
Yeah, I think that they've offered it at, I think they can sell up to 10% of the team, though that might be the NBA now or baseball. Sorry. All this private equity crap is
But
nonsense.
it's upon a valuation of like
they're
4.8
they're
billion or
valuing the
something,
team at 9 billion.
or 9 billion. Okay.
That's what they have been valuing the team at
Yeah.
as
So
to sell off these little parts. So 9 billion when I would say 3 years ago was 4.
right.
And 10 years ago it was 1 or 2. And when they got in was nothing, right? It was you have $40 laying around in your pocket, you can buy a football team.
I mean, look at the NFL as an industry. It's grown from 10 billion to like 40 billion.
Right. So the
like,
idea
like
that the Niners are worried about the valuation of their team, I don't think that Jed's too worried about the valuation of his team because he's selling off parts at 9 billion in valuation, which is probably up over 100% just since the pandemic. And they've made the playoffs a couple times and went to the Super Bowl once. Like, he was selling that after the 24 season. I don't think their valuation went down at all. It seems as if the tide is so strong that all these ships are getting thrown into another universe. They're rising so fast.
Well, I mean, you're now entertaining events like the World Cup,
Right.
and
Which, by the way, what a slate they got. Thanks a lot, FIFA.
I didn't look at it, but I mean,
you want to go see Jordan and Armenia play at 9 p.m. on a Tuesday? Because there's a lot of people willing to sell you that ticket at a major loss.
I wouldn't mind checking it out. I don't know if I need to go at that time, but
I'll tell you,
I'd be open.
I'm a big soccer guy. I got a bunch of soccer stuff. Right, you can't see it because this room's a goddamn mess. But like, I'm a big soccer guy. I actually was able to reverse engineer the slate a day before FIFA released it. That's how big of a soccer guy I am. And I looked at it and I went, oh, no, I don't want to go to any of these games. And I can tell you one thing about every one of those teams. It is awful. It's like they got the first 4 of the NCAA tournament, except it's not in Dayton. It's in Santa Clara. They got absolutely screwed. But,
I don't know
they
how
sold the tickets.
I don't know how you could invest so much energy and effort into a sport that's run by FIFA, which is probably the most corrupt organization that runs sports anywhere ever. The head of FIFA, I mean, those guys funnel all kinds of cash.
Still a proud American. It hasn't really gotten in the way of that.
Well, I'm just saying it's the FIFA is that guy. The people running FIFA. I mean, we saw it's amazing they chose Qatar.
I know.
It's like what? That wasn't nobody paid any money on that. All right, couple last ones before we go. One today, the news item of today.
Yes.
Outside of Tatum Bethune's out for the year, and Jacob Cowing's going to practice on Wednesday. The news item of the day is that the 49ers, not John Lynch, but all of his lieutenants, R.J. Gillen, Josh Williams, and Tariq Ahmad, all 3 of them are getting interviews for the Dolphins general manager opening. And then I tuned into the NFL Network this afternoon, and they're talking about how Tua is going to be gone and how, there's a very good chance that Mac Jones could be on the Dolphins wish list. What do you think of, one, how do you rank Gillen, Williams, and Ahmad? Do you? Because I know you have your own draft guide, so you may rank these guys. Williams went to my high school. He's a St. Ignatius Wildcat, so I
like Williams. He's not ready yet. He's the only one that I would hire for any.
What about Ahmad or Gillen?
Peter Principle.
Gillen doesn't wear socks. I noticed that.
Well, I don't wear socks either, so he's a man of high taste. But
it's a lot of ankle showing there.
I'm not personally a Tariq fan.
Okay. Do you know what any of these guys do, or do you have anything that's tied to any of them? If so, go ahead.
Hold on. Let me cover myself. They are ostensibly in charge of the 49ers pro and amateur, what do they call it? College scouting departments.
Director of college scouting, director of pro personnel, usually, right?
Yeah. And they don't get talked about a lot in my group chat. Let's put it that way. And pretty much everyone gets dragged in that group chat. If you're somebody of report, you're in the group chat.
What do you want from the Dolphins for Mac Jones? Because if the Dolphins are going to pursue Mac Jones, I mean, are you in the camp that says, you know what? Yeah, trade Mac Jones. He wants to start anyway. Get him out of here. He did his 1 year. Or do you
There he
say,
was.
no, you know what? Let's selfishly keep him and, you know,
He's going to get a third round comp
they
pick.
can be the backup for another year,
Well, he signed a 2-year contract, and
which was
I
odd, very odd.
that's on him. He knew what he was doing.
Yeah.
And if someone wants to get him to start for their team on what is effectively day 2 draft pick money, um, pony the fuck up. And that means we're going to need a top 50 pick coming this way. And if you can't do that, certainly with the 49ers and an undersized quarterback, we could use Mac Jones around these parts. So, yeah,
They
unless
also have some interesting young defenders. I mean, I'll tell you right now,
yeah,
if they wanted to move Kenneth Grant, I'd be listening. If they wanted to move Chop Robinson, I'd be listening, you know?
I'm
Uh,
interested in Robinson, but he faded this year. I'm not a Grant guy. Wasn't in the draft. He's played better than I thought, but
he's athletic, though. Those are interesting guys. Then on the other side of the ball, I mean, I like I like Malik Washington, who played at
yeah,
UVA, who I think would be a really good receiver in the 49ers offense. He doesn't touch the ball there for very much. He sits behind Waddle and Tyreek for the most part. And he's small. He's a slot receiver, but I like him. He's tough.
yeah. If he's not getting the ball from Mike McDaniel, I have a hard time believing that Kyle Shanahan, who's even tougher on receivers, is gonna he's going to find his way into Kyle's good graces. Again, it's you're going to have to pay an exorbitant cost because you're not going to actually have to pay Mac Jones any money, and you're getting a lifeline. We're saving jobs if you give away Mac Jones because you clearly want him, you clearly need him. Uh, Pony up, and unless they're giving up Waddle, or unless they're giving up, I don't even know if they have anybody on the defense that I would want. I don't think that the 49ers should be interested because, again, they need a backup quarterback. If anything was proven this year, it was that having a really good backup quarterback, like a Mac Jones, who's probably the best backup quarterback in the league, is exceptionally valuable to any team, and particularly the 49ers with Brock Purdy, who just hasn't gotten through a whole season yet. Not once. So keep an eye on it.
All right. Let's take a look at the weekend ahead real quick. We'll roll through it. Then we'll hit some supers and we'll bolt for the door. The playoffs get rolling. The first game is Rams Panthers in Charlotte. Rams are a 10-point favorite on the road at Bank of America Stadium. What do you think? Rams blow the doors off the Panthers, or do the Panthers hang around in that game?
The Panthers are woeful. We saw that firsthand. And the worst thing that is ever happened to them was that they beat the Rams a couple weeks ago because now the Rams can't even overlook them, which was pretty much the Panthers' only route to victory in this game. If Devontae Adams plays, they're going to win by 3 touchdowns. If he doesn't, they're going to win by 10 or more. It's a good line. I would bet the Rams in it. And I think that they're probably spending the second half getting a little bit of a mini bye, not playing as Bryce Young tries to figure out what's what in the second half of a game that's already out of focus.
Some of these games, you look at that in a regular season game, 10 points is a big spread. But when the season's on the line and there's finality to the whole thing, it tends to, the emotion of the moment tends to pop. These games don't stay close late. One team pulls away. There's too much on the line. I think the Rams win and cover. How about Packers Bears? That's the second game. That's the night game on Prime Video on Saturday at Soldier Field. Green Bay 9-7-1. Chicago's 11-6. They're 6-2 at home. Do we even know? Is it Jordan Love? Is it Malik Willis? Who's going to start a quarterback?
It should be Jordan Love. He cleared the protocol last week, but they held him out. They rested everybody.
So who do you like? Because you're a Chicago guy. I kind of think
don't put the Bears on me now. Don't put those Bears on me.
Everybody thinks the Bears are going to win this game.
Really?
And I think most people have the Bears win the game. The Bears are favored by 1.5. I think the people think of the Green Bay as kind of a circus that didn't finish the year strong. But I'll say this about Green Bay. It's a good organization. They have a tendency to, fire and get to another level in the playoffs. I think that they're going to get to another level, and I think the Bears are going to struggle to get to that level. This is going to be another one of those back and forth games, but I think Green Bay is going to get them.
Let's not forget how the Bears beat the Packers a couple weeks ago. It took a miracle. Like they couldn't beat Malik Willis and the just absolute shell of a defense. They couldn't beat them without an onside kick being converted and a bunch of voodoo happening. And then, Caleb did make an unbelievable throw against a cover one look, but like they had a 0.5% chance to win the game if you believe those analytics. And they think that, having snuck that one through that, hey, now we get to play it again, we'll do the same thing. Now that defense is easy pickings. I think the 49ers gave Matt LaFleur way too much information to work off. And Jeff Hafley is a very good coordinator. And Green Bay's got some dudes on that side of the ball, particularly at linebacker. I'm taking the Packers. I'm taking the Packers comfortably.
Wow. We're in agreement on that. We both like the Packers. How about Bills, Jags in Jacksonville? Buffalo's on the road, but they're a 1.5 favorite. Josh Allen against Trevor Lawrence. If you're one of the quarterback bettors, you're going to take Buffalo. Buffalo's 5-3 on the road. Jaguars are 7-2 at home. Jaguars, I'll say this about Jacksonville. Jaguars look remarkably fresh compared to Buffalo.
Yes.
Buffalo looks to me like kind of tired, kind of beat up, kind of limping, gone through a long year. Jacksonville looks bouncy and fresh and energetic, and I don't know. I want to pick Buffalo, but something tells me that Jacksonville, just on that angle, fresh, bouncy, energetic, I think the Jaguars are going to win this game at home.
I'm with you. I'm going to pick the Jaguars as well. I don't think there's been a better quarterback in football than Trevor Lawrence in the second half. Now, do I trust Liam Cohen in big, tight game situations? Not particularly. Did you see how he was standing at the end of that game in Week 18? Like he was the man. He was just kind of soaking it all in for the fourth quarter. Like, I'm so good. I think he's now fourth on the all-time Jaguars win list. He's coached one season. But Lawrence looks great. They are extremely opportunistic on defense, and maybe that all comes crashing down at some point. But they kind of done it all year, so I'm starting to think that's more of a trend than it is an anomaly. And Buffalo's defense is woeful now. And once Jacksonville got Jacoby Myers, they ramped up to another level. Cohen's as good as a play caller as there is in the league. I think it's easy pickings on the Bills defense right now. And I think that Josh Allen, you take away Shakir and you sell out to stop the run against Cook. Who's going to beat you? One of their three nondescript white guy tight ends that all play the same and look the same and do the same. Like they don't have any weapons. So yeah, I'm a big believer in quarterbacks and head coaches. The better quarterback and the better head coach in this game might both be in Jacksonville right now. And so I'm going to take the home team. And again, I think that everyone's going to be picking Buffalo because of the narrative. And, there's no Kansas City and it's wide open. And this is Josh Allen's year. But this ain't the team. This ain't the team that's going to win a Super Bowl. This is the worst Josh Allen team in a long time. And he's pretty damn good, but he can only do so much.
Yeah, they're kind of a weird team, this Buffalo team. I mean, if you think about it, look at the point totals of their wins. 41, 30, 31, 31, 40, 28, 44, 26, 39, 35, 23, 35. They score points when they win. But then look at their point totals in their losses. 12, 19, 13, 14, 20. I mean, that's pretty crazy. I mean, how many teams do you know that scored over 40 3 times and also scored under 20 3 times? Or 4 times. 4 times.
I think the 49ers did that this year.
That's pretty wild, though.
It is.
I'll take Jacksonville. Just on a hunch. Just on a hunch. I don't feel great about it, but I just feel like, I feel like we think of all these teams as like, the brand, like, the Ravens, the Chiefs, the Bills have that brand. and the Jaguars don't. But what always proves to be true is that time goes by fast, and youth is always served, and older teams look really old late in the year, and bouncy, energetic teams. Not every they just don't have the same kind of. It doesn't. It's kind of like a young up and coming team gets through a season sometimes easier than some of the older teams. I think Jacksonville on energy is going to win. All right, let's get to Niners Eagles. I give the Niners a real shot here. I really do because I think Purdy's going to bounce back. I think the Niners easily could fire. They could fire and play well and lose, but I don't think they're going to be. It's not going to be 49ers scoring 6 points. Right. 49ers are going to score points in this game. 49ers are going to have some success in this game. I think the Eagles are going to win. I'll say 24-20 Eagles.
Yeah, I like that number a lot. I think we're going to know in the first 20 minutes of game time if the Niners are there or not. And if they're there, going to a point you made earlier, that bodes very well for them because the Eagles' offense is as disjointed and siloed and, at times straight up dysfunctional as any good team in the league. At least in Seattle, they can run some concepts. Like they can't pass the ball down the field unless it is an absolute layup. This Eagles team right now, they are running the ball better as of late. I do think that that's something they're probably going to lean on, and it might just be enough. Everything with the Niners right now is with the caveat of for all the worries that I have about the other team's offense, if from their viewpoint, like, hey, I don't like what they're doing. There's some issues here. Same thing going with Seattle. Doesn't matter. It might not matter against this 49ers defense. This 49ers defense might be strictly disqualifying for any Niners success. But I do expect a bounce back. I do expect character. And I do expect this game to be close. I'm not going to pick the Niners, but to win it, I'll pick them to cover. I think that it's close late. I think Purdy covers himself in glory. And yeah, I'll take the Eagles though by a point or two, and probably in that same scoring range as you just laid out.
I think we're down on the Niners because of the way the Seahawks game looked. But I'll say this: the Seahawks ended the season ranked number 1 in overall DVOA, number 1 in defensive DVOA, and then they're number 1 against the run and number 1 against the pass.
They're unbelievable.
So they're
but
just
the Eagles'
really
defense
good.
is damn good. That's the thing. The Eagles' defense is damn good too. And they don't present the same kind of problems, but some of the same issues, right? Like consistent pressure from the interior of the line is going to be there. Fast gap filling linebackers in the run game are going to be there. They have better defensive ends than Seattle does. They don't rush in unison the way that Seattle does. Seattle just moves the wall closer to you, but they get around the edge. They can really make Colton McKivitz's life hell. If Trent's not 100%, his life could look really tough. And then, Quinion Mitchell is a better corner than even Seattle has, and they have great cornerbacks. It's a different thing, but I do think that, coming off of that game against Seattle, Vic Fangio is probably going to see a lot of the stuff Seattle did, and he is the kind of guy who has the personnel and, frankly, the ego in place to just sort of rip that game plan off. And it won't be as successful because, again, it's not Seattle's defense, but it's the second best defense in the NFC going right now. And, Seattle's offense dominated. They only scored 13 points. I think that it will probably be more points and less domination, certainly, from the Philadelphia offense. I also think that there's a rest factor that has to be factored in, right? Like the Philly doesn't have to travel. That's a big thing. And then they also just didn't play anybody last week. They rested everybody against the Commanders and kind of conceded seed. Whereas the Niners are coming off a game where, can you remember a game where they got laid out as often as they did against Seattle? The only game that comes to mind is Houston, which is the best defense in the AFC. So I think they're going up against an elite defense. I think that Philadelphia's offense has enough weapons to overcome their deficiencies. Certainly the Niners defense will provide plenty of opportunity. Purdy's going to have the game of his life, and that's probably not going to result in 30 points altogether. So it's just a pretty tricky proposition. There are absolutely avenues for the Niners to win this game. It wouldn't shock me if they won this game, but there's more avenues for the Eagles to win. Yeah.
Yeah. It's hard to picture. All right, last two. Chargers, Pats at Foxborough. That's the Sunday nighter. New England's 3.5-point favorites. They've been playing great. Chargers are 11-6. Pats are 14-3. What do you think? Who do you like here?
I think that the New England Patriots are paper tigers.
Wow.
And I think that the LA Chargers are going into Foxborough and upsetting them this week on the basis of they're better coached. They have the better quarterback. And I know that Drake May is going to win MVP. They have the better quarterback. I think that Harbaugh and the Chargers pull down. No, they can't win the Super Bowl. The Chargers cannot win the Super Bowl. But they're taking something with them on the way out. And I think they're taking the Patriots with them. They're just really well. I mean, Minter is as good as it gets. I'm not the biggest Greg Roman fan, but when you got that quarterback, he'll cover up a lot of your deficiencies. I think they can play with them, all things even. And I think Vrabel's a little too high on his own supply right now. Wow, congrats. You kicked the Jets' ass a couple of times. You play in a weak division. You played the weakest schedule in the NFL. That claim can be applied to the Patriots. Who have they beaten besides the Buffalo Bills, who clearly I don't think are very good? Who have they beaten? Who have what testament is there to say that the Patriots are somehow an elite team? Whereas at least with the Chargers, I know they can give anybody a game on any given week. So I'm taking the Chargers. I think Pats are not coming close to the Super Bowl. I think they're still a year or two away. And I just think too much of the coaching staff and Herbert to not pick the Chargers here in a spot where I legitimately think the Patriots are overlooking them.
Wow. Chargers lost their last two games to Houston and Denver. And
Who started the last one?
They scored a combined 19 points in two games. Lance started. He was their leading rusher and their leading receiver. He threw for 136 yards. I don't know. I'm taking New England. I like New England. I think New England's playing really, really well. They've won 13 of 14. I mean, Jesus, they're playing well. They're one of the more automatic teams in the NFL. They've been very professional this year. For a young team, they're a very professional outfit. I like the way they play. I think they're united. They got a couple good runners. They got enough. May's so young that I don't think he realizes that he should be nervous. I don't think, this one at home against a team that he can beat is really going to be like, oh gosh, I can't do this. He might feel pressure at some point in this thing, but I don't think it's going to be in this game. So I like the Pats there. How about the Monday nighter to wrap it up? Texans on the road against the Steelers. Houston, that spread's gone up. It was Houston, I think, -1.5. It's now Houston -3.
Yep.
I like Houston. I think, first of all, the over-under is 39.5. I think this might be a really, really low-scoring game. Really low-scoring game. But I like the Texans.
I think the term elder abuse is going to be used in this game. The Texans' defense against whatever the hell it is Aaron Rodgers is doing is not worthy of prime time. I don't think that the Steelers score a touchdown. I think that they might get shut out in a playoff game. And while I'm not particularly sold on C.J. Stroud, who had fewer touchdown passes this season than Brock Purdy, despite the fact that Brock Purdy played 9 games total, there are enough weapons there, and the Pittsburgh defense is susceptible enough. I'm taking the Texans by 3 touchdowns. I think this is going to be a bloodbath.
Wow. So I'm looking at my picks here. I'm going as far as road teams. I'm taking Rams, Packers, I guess Niners with the points, and Texans. Yeah. So I'm going with 4 of the 6 road teams.
I think I'm taking even more than that.
Really?
Well, I'm taking, yeah.
I'm taking no favorites. I'm taking Houston, New England, and Rams. So I got 3 favorites, 3 dogs, but I'm taking a lot of the road teams. I'm taking Rams, Packers, Niners, Texans.
Yeah. Anybody's playoffs, and I think that we're going to be really wondering who the hell is good and who the hell is not. And there's going to be a large conversation about the Jacksonville Jaguars at the end of this weekend. I'm telling you.
Yeah.
I think people are going to be like, should we have picked the Jaguars to win the Super Bowl? Because, great. Seattle, which has long been my Super Bowl bet, looking stronger by the day. And we'll have to see how that
You
all
had
goes.
Seattle at the beginning of the year?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
I
had many picks. I mean, my Super Bowl pick, to be very blunt, was the Packers and the Chiefs. That ain't happening. But I did have Seattle on very long odds to win the division. And I sprinkled in a little bit of Super Bowl love on them at the last second there. At I think it was 75-1.
I had Niners Chargers, but if I was doing it right now, I'd probably go with Seattle and Houston in just a defensive battle royale. Yeah. And I kind of like Houston. I kind of like Houston to beat Seattle in a big time battle where the defense dominates. It would be great to see. It would be cool to see that. All right, 49er football season is presented by Sleeper. We told you about that. We did our lineup, but we didn't tell you that the Krueger Show is also brought to you by our friends at, of course, Pig and a Pickle, but at Habbas Law. And thanks to Habbas Law for being a proud sponsor of the Krueger Show. We appreciate Habbas Law. They will fight to make it right. 1-800-INJURED. Let's hit our supers courtesy of Habbas Law. Here we go. JC says Jennings must look at Pearsall like he's a stack of Charmin extra soft toilet paper. One guy's our culture. The other guy should be a Cardinal.
First off, that's some good Cardinal slander. Yeah. Yep. Very interested to see what that locker room is like on Wednesday. Very.
JJ's just unbelievably tough. Ernberg says, I've never been so hyped for draft talk in off season. Okay.
There's no way that's true because last year that's all we had.
That's all we had. Too Much Sauce says, hate to say it, but against the Eagles, Mac Jones, Tonjes, and B-Rob starting gives us a better shot at winning than Purdy, Kittle, and CMC. Yes or yes? I would say no. I don't agree with that.
$5 on that take.
Don't like that one. Don't like that one.
What?
Yeah.
What?
Vin Win says there's no realistic path to beating the Eagles. Enjoy the last game of the season, and hopefully they make changes from the very top down.
This team won 6 games before last week. 6 games in a row. Their offense looked unstoppable. No realistic path. If you watch the Eagles, they're realistic paths. The Eagles do nothing but create paths for you to beat them with. Doesn't mean they will. It just means they're going to be there.
Yeah, I think we're overreacting to Seattle's dominance.
Seattle's
JC said Jennings must look at Pearsall like he's a stack.
I think we just did that one.
Just got that one. Green glass full. Trade code for a King James Bible and a 7th. We good.
Okay. Don't know what that means.
Not really sure what that
means. I'm familiar with all of those terms individually. Have no idea how they work together.
Why is everybody always anti-Grant? Luis Madera, maybe Saleh can scheme Marquis Siegel into the defensive game plan to help stop the run.
I mean, I've been asking for that for 8 weeks. It's too late now. It ain't happening. By the way, Marquis Siegel, who hasn't gotten a meaningful snap since week 8, finished with more tackles than Fred Warner this season, who had 52 before he went out.
He might be the Niners' best coverage safety.
He's their best coverage safety, and he's their best run-stopping safety, but, can't play him.
Boxing fan times 4. Is Poop Hall still available? Yeah, if you want to pick him off Seattle's practice squad, I believe he still is there. Didgen 181. This is the most pessimistic the fan base has ever been going into a playoff game in the Shanny era. Luckily, playoffs don't always go as expected. Well, yeah, I mean, they haven't come off of a Week 18 game that looked that bad where they got that decimated. 3 points, no offense to speak of. Lillian says, Dieter, Jair Brown make the team next year?
I mean, if Robert Saleh has his say, it sure seems like it. Don't think that's the right call.
Too. Shanahan's a big fan.
He's a smart guy. So am I. It doesn't mean that, I appreciate that. I like Jair as a person. I do think that he makes some there's some nice flash plays from Jair, to be sure. But let's just quickly run over the only touchdown of that game, where Jair lines up as the edge defender, five along the line. He lines up as the edge defender. It's cover one on the back end, and he crashes in. He commits the cardinal sin of cover one defense, where he crashes in for no discernible reason. And it's like, dude, what are you? You're late on breaks. You're slow to develop on plays. And then when they give you, he's so smart, but when they give him these basic responsibilities, just hold contain. Let our defensive linemen come in and flood. Because there was a stunt. It was coming over. You had Keon White there in the spot. All you have to do is keep leverage. And he's like, nah, I'm crashing in. I'm making the play. Next thing you know, it's a touchdown because Malik Mustafa can't make a one-on-one tackle. And it's like, there's something like that every single game, just catastrophic errors, and they're not clearly obvious to those who don't sort of know the rules of how to play certain defenses, but they are plainly obvious to anyone who has any coaching background, any playing background, who has ever had to think about these things. And it's like, and yet they still run him out there because, well, he's smart. Stop doing dumb stuff then.
Well, he's inconsistent. He makes some amazing plays, but he also has plays like that play on the touchdown where he on the long run, I should say, on the 19-yard run, Bethune missed the tackle, but he missed the tackle like three different ways. It was like two different angles he could have taken. That very much was on him.
I do not understand it.
Mark McAdams says that's the 4th and 1 play call, season on the line play call, huh? Tang was the first read. Terrible play call. What happened to the Purdy zone read play?
Who's Tang?
I don't know who Tang is.
Okay, well, the zone read doesn't work against Seattle because Seattle plays a gap and a half. They're in a tight front typically, and they'll throw 5 or 6 across the line. But they don't, the zone read works when you're dealing with straight one gap shooting defenses, which, not dissimilar to the one you'll face. And that's why it worked great against Tennessee. It worked great against the Bears. It worked great against, they got, I think, 2 touchdowns with it against the Browns. No, 1. Those are all 4 down linemen, 1 gap, wide 9 in some specific cases. I think wide 13 in the case of a Myles Garrett. He's so far out there, he might as well be on the sideline. There's a reason that no one runs that at the college level anymore. It's because it was exploited to the point where no one runs it anymore. The zone read and the read option ruined 4-man, 1 gap, fire off the line fronts like Krueger wants to run and so many other teams want to run. And now everyone runs the mint front, the tight front, the 1.5 gap front with 3 down linemen and a bunch of linebackers on the field. So it was just not, it would not have been a good play call against the Seattle defense that can run 1 gap some weeks, but typically doesn't. 1.5 most weeks, and 2 gaps sometimes even, if they want to just go with 3 down linemen. To summarize all of this, that defense is too good to run that shit against.
Well, and they're way too fast on the second level. I mean, you're not doing that against if you have a speed advantage on the second level, then you can run that. If you don't have a speed advantage on the second level, that's probably going to get snuffed out probably every single time. So that's I think
like who are you running? Who are you leaving unguarded on that play? Like Boye Mafe, Dexter Lawrence, or are you going mid-read, which is probably what you would have to do because of the gaps situation. So you're just going to leave Reed.
But you're talking about the line of scrimmage. I think the second level defenders are going to close that down as well.
Well, the idea is with the zone read that the second level defenders get taken away by the running back, and then you keep it. So you have to pick a guy to go unblocked, and then that person is now you read off of that's the read. You see if they're crashing or if they're staying, and you hand it off accordingly. Who on that defensive line do you want to go one-on-one with? Because I'll tell you, it was Montez Sweat repeatedly against the Bears because they didn't trust him to make the right decisions, and he consistently made the wrong decisions where he was neither crashing nor staying. He was stuck in no man's land, so Purdy was good either way. Against the Browns, it was the opposite defensive end than Myles Garrett, which is a pretty obvious decision. And then they've done some mid stuff where they have defensive linemen who get too far upfield. And by the way, the Niners have gotten burned on this. You look at the Tennessee tape with Kevin Givens. I mean, there's a couple of plays where Kevin Givens is just standing in the backfield, not knowing what to do because they ran mid-read on him. And guess what? Here's Cam Ward on the bootleg, which he can also throw off of because they run it as an RPO. It's not the right kind of front to run it against. It's not the right team to run it against. You weren't getting to the second level as an offensive line. You weren't even getting to those linebackers to put a body on them, much less, stopping them from doing what Larry just pointed out, which is them crashing in and being super fast. And Thomas would have been right there no matter what. He was outstanding in that game. You can't. What are you going to run it against Nicky Manwari? You think you're beating Nicky Manwari one-on-one in the open
There's just
field?
too much speed. I mean, there was just way too much speed there. Lilland says, Larry, give us Trent Baalke's take on the Niners versus the Eagles. You got to run the ball. It's going to be cold. You're going to have that cheesesteak cheese dripping down your cheek. And all those Eagles fans, I mean, God bless them. And they always say, hey, man, Trent Baalke knows Philly and Philly knows Trent Baalke. And all I've got to say is that, I should be somebody's GM somewhere. If it wasn't for Sean Khan, I'd be somebody's GM. But right now, I'm going to say, you know what? The Niners have a fighting chance because I think DeForest Buckner, he's not there anymore. So I guess, you know what? I don't give the Niners much of a chance. There you go.
That's really good.
We got this one from Justin. Do you guys like Texas A&M wide receiver KC Concepcion? Yeah, I do. I like him a lot. I think he's a really high-level mover. I think he's going to blow away the combine. I think he's going to have a 4.40 type number. I think he's going to be a day 2 pick, and somebody's going to be really happy with him. He's 195 pounds. He's fast. He's a game changer. I think he'll, in some ways, be better in the NFL. I like KC Concepcion. He's definitely one of those guys that can get separation. What he runs at the combine is going to be interesting because, I've been told he's a 4.4 guy, but you know what? Something tells me he's going to run faster than that. I think he might run 4.40. Faded
late for what it's worth.
Well, Jesus.
Texas and Miami kicked his ass. And
how bad? But I don't put that on him at all. I put that on the quarterback. I thought that the quarterback just died. I mean, the quarterback just played terrible. I mean, it was Marcel just could not play against Miami. He was horrible, absolutely horrible. He did not see the field. He panicked, couldn't get the ball to anybody.
Well, that's because Concepcion was his safety blanket all year. Whenever it was wrong, Concepcion was just running a drag right in front of him, and he'd dump it off to him. And guess what? They go up against competent teams for the first time in a long time, and I include my Missouri Tigers in this. They were not competent. And yeah, all you had to do is take away Concepcion, which proved to be a lot easier than I think most would have suspected. Well, and suddenly their offense goes to hell. Yeah, I mean, Keontae Scott's going to play in the NFL for a long time, too, and he's a really good slot corner, and that probably was the best guy he went against all year. We got this one from Vin to Win. He says, Eddie D would have fired Lynch 2 months ago, and Kyle would have been gone by next Monday. It's factually untrue, and I'm sick of people using Eddie D as this empty vessel in which to put their ridiculously hot takes in. Oh, well, Eddie D would have done. He's still living. You can ask him. He'd tell you that that's ridiculous. So,
and also it's a different time, and it's like, I get no problem with running out anybody, but you got to get somebody better. That's the key. You can't make emotional decisions. Anybody can get. You see this all the time. Fans that have these takes are no different than the person that we see on social media whose team just lost and they destroyed their big screen TV. It's like, you don't have to destroy your big screen TV because your team lost, but some people do. Now, any idiot can take a hammer to their big screen TV, but you know what? It takes some cash to go buy a new one. And anybody can take a hammer to their kitchen counters and rip out their cabinets, and anybody can demo a kitchen, but only a contractor can build it back up. So all I'm saying is it's real easy to do the demo, and it makes you feel good, but you better build up with something better, or you're no better off than you were before.
Well said.
Mark says, if they can't stop the run this week, put Jair Brown at linebacker and let Siegel play safety. He's fresh, fast, and can tackle. Can it get worse in the Seattle game? Try something new. I totally agree with this.
I agree. It will not happen.
Yeah, but
I've been asking for exactly that for the last 7 weeks. It's not happening. The window of opportunity closed like 4 weeks ago. They're riding it out with this safety duo, and fucking Pinnock, who provides you nothing, at this big nickel that they keep wanting to go to. The Niners, if they do any sub package in this game, I don't think Bob's done a very good job the last couple of weeks, to be very clear. His game plan against Indianapolis was abysmal.
He's just run out of bullets, though. He's got nothing. He's got nothing. I mean, they have nothing up front. I agree they're not trying anything, but they don't have a whole lot.
Well,
either.
this week, he tries a bunch of stunts and going base with Kendricks at Sam, and it's like, okay, heirs of commission as opposed to, heirs of omission. That's fine. You're trying stuff out, but it's not working. And I don't know on what planet is this Pinnock at Big Nickel working. When was the last time it provided a modicum? For what? To miss tackles, to overblow his gaps? Like, he hasn't done anything.
If anybody's going to get on the field in this situation to play linebacker, if you're going to go with any kind of DB, it's going to be him. Because he's the guy who reads it best in the box. He's the veteran. He's the guy they're going to go to. If they're going to go to anything creative, it's going to be Pinnock at linebacker.
I would first, they should not do that anymore. It's abysmal to watch. And then if you want to play Pinnock for some reason, okay, fine, play him at actual safety and let Jair come down, because Jair with any space around him it's woeful stuff. But again, we're too late to salvage whatever went on with Siegel. I have no idea what went on with Siegel and why, Upton Stout, who was struggling just as much as Siegel, right? But is given all the opportunity in the world and made good on that opportunity. Why he gets the opportunity, but Siegel gets benched and now can only find special team stuff, where, there was a lot of positives to glean from that. And I thought this was all about being on the roller coaster, riding the waves and letting the young guys figure it out. But Marquise Siegel, I don't know what the hell he did, but he is persona non grata for Bob Saleh.
They have this weird way of handling their rookies. I can't really endorse it across the board.
I'm with you.
Mark McAdam, if they can't stop okay, we got that one. Yeah. We got this one from Lilland. Larry, who was worse, Rashawn Woods or A.J. Jenkins? I think it was A.J. Jenkins. Gotta be Jenkins. Though neither did anything. Vin Wynn says, never ask Kyle about injuries on Monday. Dude is never sure about anything. Yeah, I mean, everybody
Ignorance
today
is bliss.
Everybody's 50-50. It's like today was like one guy's out for a year, but the rest of the guys are 50-50. Alexander McDonald says, hey, I'm Alexander McDonald, damn it.
Here's $20.
Here's $20.
Hell no.
Damn it. Brad Jones in the house. Is Saleh gone after this year? If so, Kyle go out and get Jim Schwartz, or does he go safe with Gus Bradley? He's going to go with Gus Bradley.
He shouldn't. He should go with Schwartz. And don't forget, after they beat the Browns, he went right to Schwartz after the game, and they were buddy-buddy.
Really?
There was a lot of smiles and a lot of ass pats, a lot of grab assing between those two. And you know what? That's good program managing right there. Keep your enemies closer.
There you go. Boxing fan times 4. So is Dieter saying Huff is getting cut like Floyd?
No. That it was a 1 year. Well, hopefully it's a 1 year cap cut thing or money saving thing.
Blowski says Riley Leonard looks good. Well, Indianapolis could want Mac Jones. I'd take Riley Leonard as a replacement and picks. Big Phil 49er. Great live, fellas. Thanks for the grind. Appreciate it.
You're welcome for the grind, because it is an absolute grind.
It's a grind. Sunday_living. What happened to that athletic wide receiver from Nebraska? Isaiah Nayer. Next year, need him and Watkins. Still can't get past Kyle. Not utilizing rookie draft picks. Shaking my head. Nayer went back to Green Bay and I think was on the practice squad for Green Bay either all year or much of the year. I'm not sure if he's still there.
A quick reminder.
He was huge and fast.
These coaches see these players every day. They get to see how they practice. We don't. Just something. I'm not giving them the full benefit of the doubt, right? Because again, I just went in like I don't understand what they're doing X, Y, and Z. But at some point, they are playing football throughout the week, and they are asked to do things throughout the week. Well, and I'd imagine that has some bearing on how coaches feel about them.
I think it has a lot to do with the fact that if you're not the starter or the backup or the third guy, excuse me, you have to play special teams. You got to have a role on special teams. These backup receivers have no role on special teams at all. So what are you going to do with them? So you have to be really special to be a receiver who doesn't contribute on special teams, isn't ready to start, and still is going to carve out some kind of consistent roster spot. I think that's really what happens. Narrow Watt says, can't believe Kyle won't even try Watkins. Vice, the legend says, how much different do you think the game against Seattle goes if Trent and Pearsall play? That's a good question. What do you think, Dieter?
I think the Niners score a touchdown. So it might have come down to those two missed kicks. I think that the Pearsall thing loomed a lot larger than the Trent thing. Everything about that Seattle defensive game plan was a ripoff. Well, obviously it's their base, which is incredible and problematic for Kyle in and of itself. But then from what I could tell, it was a ripoff of what everyone did in 24, which was, you can't win in man-to-man. Go ahead and try. And if you beat us in man-to-man, so be it. And I think the Niners were able to do that twice all of last year. It felt to me as if that game plan from Seattle was, if Ricky Pearsall goes for 140 and 2 touchdowns, we'll tip our hat and say, great season. He didn't even show up for the game. So there was no one who can replicate what he does. Obviously, Trent is as good as it gets at left tackle. I thought Austin Pleasance was fine. He wasn't the reason they lost that game. I think that having a pass offense that can move the ball, particularly on third down, with just a guy getting the fuck open on his own, would have been a major difference in this game. I don't know if it puts the Niners over the top. I do think it creates a completely different game script for Seattle. That might have been the benefit of the Niners. It could have been to the detriment of the Niners. So to put it simply, I think that the Niners have a touchdown, and if everything hangs strong there, it comes down to who has the better special teams. And on that night, it might have been the Niners in all certainty, because again, 2 missed easy field goals. So yeah, they're not that far away, and yet they feel so far away. You're muted, Larry.
This is going to be a huge challenge for sure, but I don't think Philly is going that good. I think Philly in our minds is better than Philly in actuality.
True.
I think the 49ers are coming off of a really ugly game. It's easy to envision them just going down like lambs. I think they're going to make this a competitive game. I think this is going to be a really interesting game. I wouldn't get on a bird and fly across the country if I didn't think the game was going to be competitive. So I do think it's going to be competitive. We'll see.
Are you getting on a bird and flying across the country?
We got this one. Yes, I am. We got this one.
That's awesome.
From Robbie. Says, what's more likely, Larry getting healthy ever again or the Niners winning on Sunday? Seriously,
Niners.
I've had this crazy drippy nose that is just absolutely will not go away. I had it and I got rid of it during Christmas week. It was gone for a week. Now it's back. It's unbelievable. Anyway.
I'm so glad that we sat close to each other at the Niners game, Larry. That's great. I don't have a 3-year-old and an 11-month-old who are just constantly dripping from the nose at all, and I'm fighting off illness at all times. So it was great that you added to the saga. That's fine. Well, if I die next week, you know who did it to me.
I didn't really sit that close, and I didn't try to shake hands or dap you up. I
appreciate
that.
That.
Best 2 guys for Niner content. Love both channels. Appreciate all you guys. Guys questioning my immune system. Immune system is weak, Larry. Thank you.
And a Liverpool fan. This is my kind of guy.
Unbelievable. How dare you question my immune system?
We're playing January football, Larry, and this immune system is not going to hold up. I need more from you. I need some echinacea. I need some vitamin C. I need you to bust out whatever kind of hard drugs you got and put them in you. We need you this week. We need you this week.
I will get right for Philly.
Yeah, never met a man I've been scared of. Careful, you gon' get exactly what